really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by the talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful south coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Edgar's down it. Hello, Oregon. Wake up, South Coast. Wake up, America. It's 8 o'clock at night. Do you know where your children are? I don't know where the hell mine are, and I really don't care. They're above 20. So wherever they want to be, I hope they're having a good time. And remember, don't drive home drunk. And I've got a few friends joining me tonight. It's going to be a splendtacular evening. That's splendid and fantastic, fantacular, splendtacular. I'm making up my own words. That's right. I'm 3 tequila shots in and not giving a damn. So I just want to introduce my guest because there is so much to talk about. It was almost impossible to dig out all the things that we needed to go over on a Friday night when we've been loosened up enough to actually tell the truth. Not that I don't tell the truth normally, but when I get this loosened up, I might spill some beans on things. You never know what's going to happen. So stay tuned. We're going to introduce some of my guests here. And of course, joining me is Marty Kuhrt. Hey, Marty.
Oh, man. Every time I see myself, I'm going, yeah, you got a face made for radio. Look at this guy. And he's in a podcast where his face is being shown. Have you no shame?
It's almost torture. Let's torture the hell out of him. You got some Rolling Rocks for tonight.
Actually, I do not have any Rolling Rocks tonight. Tonight, I'm having Kiwanda.
Because I know some of the people out there are going to try to keep up with you bottle per bottle. So make sure and let us know when you're going to the next bottle. And I hope there's an age restriction on the YouTube part of this video. Damn. Oh, well, we get kicked off. What the hell?
It's a dangerous thing to try to keep up with me when I'm bottle to bottle because, well, I've had a lot of friends that went, you know, I sort of remember coming home at some point. Thanks for driving me home. I'm like, yeah, you didn't seem to mind me putting you in the trunk, so fine, everything's fine. Didn't want you thrown up. Didn't want you.
I know that's a true story.
In the car, yeah. Well, of course, you've done that a few times for me as well. So it's not like I never do that.
And I remember the first time I drove you home drunk. You've got a driveway that goes out into the middle of the woods. You got to get on a dirt road that takes you to the dirt road that gets to your dirt road driveway. That's how far out in the middle of nowhere you are. And I'm driving out there thinking, I'm never making it back. I'm hearing banjo music. Something's gone wrong. But as you can see, I got Doug Washington, the man, the myth. Doug, how are you doing?
Good. You know, you said to start the libations. I don't know if you were serious or not. So, you know, you're all talking about dropping tequilas and you're like on 15 beers. I've had half a Coors Light and I'm ready for a nap.
Wow.
I'm a lightweight. I've been going hard all day.
I half a Coors Light. Oh, my goodness.
So you're out at Diamond Lake. What is it like right this time of year on Diamond Lake?
Beautiful out. You know, we're starting to see some leaves drop. The deciduous trees are starting to change colors and leaves are starting to fall. We're seeing colder temperatures. In fact, on the way up here, it really wasn't that cold. It was high 60s, but it dropped pretty quick. So just beautiful days. Few weeks ago was the first time I've ever been out here. And we're coming back out tonight and then tomorrow to just fish for trout and just have fun. And it's a beautiful lake. What a neat little resource. We have all these neat things within just a few hours of wherever you live in the state of Oregon. As much as it's mismanaged and just run roughshod over, it is one of the most natural naturally beautiful places on the planet. It really is something for everybody. You can go skiing and get a suntan in the same day. You
In the
can
same day.
fish for tuna and go hunting for something in the same small time span. It's amazing. The West Coast is amazing. You know, we were talking just the other day. Within a couple months, we fished for giant bluefin tuna. We harvested an elk. We fished lingcod, two species of salmon, rockfish. We picked mushrooms. We picked berries. I mean, this place is no. I mean, it's actually nasty. Stay away. Everybody, stay away.
No,
That's
I
what I
mean,
have to say.
or
Yes.
the south coast of Oregon is like the worst. Everybody stay the heck away because I
Yeah,
don't want you getting in the way when I'm picking
Yep.
berries or I am getting blueberries or I'm picking apples and I'm making apple cider
yeah.
or I'm fishing in the lake or fishing in the ocean. I mean, it's just so horrible. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to
No,
anybody.
not for anybody. No.
No, and I tell that to people on really nice days. You make sure and remind the tourist it goes to shit in October, okay? Just let them know that this is beautiful right now, but October, it's like we start a torrential rain and windstorm that goes until about March. So, as long as they know the facts, that's
Yeah.
because I didn't expect that. I got here in March and it rained till June. And then it was a beautiful summer, and I thought, oh, what a great place.
Yeah.
Then it all went to crap in October.
Yeah, I remember the first time
I
I moved. Yeah, the first time I moved here, and it was like Oregon. It started. I mean, October. It started raining, and about November, I'm like, should we be starting to work on an ark or
yeah,
something? Do we need to get animals
yeah.
2x2 in line here? Because it's just this rain just never stops, and the wind is always about on a calm day about 25 miles an hour. So you're like,
Right.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Cold, wet wind, and you sweat, and the humidity is 100% when it's like 50, 60 degrees out. So you get this
yeah.
weird cold sweat. Well, I came out here visiting for years and years, never saw rain. People are like, oh, it always rains here. I'm like, y'all are whack. It doesn't rain here. I've never said, it doesn't matter what time of year. It never rained. It was always sunny. Oregon will lie to you. Oregon will lie to you to lull you into that false sense of security, bring you in. I moved here March, I think it was March, late March, March 27th, March 28th, and it rained for 3 months straight. It was, I was really worried. I was worried that that's what it was going to be for the rest of my life. It was incredible.
I couldn't figure out how we weren't sinking into the ground after that
Yeah.
much rain. I was having a hard time coming from the desert where it rains 5% of the year. That's it. And,
And you see it coming.
and you see it coming and it goes away real quick and it smells
Yeah.
beautiful, but it don't last long. And here I was having, and then on top of that, you have the 90-foot trees surrounding you. So you get claustrophobic, you have the rain, and then you start understanding why they have all those freaky, scary college kids get killed in the wood movies made in Oregon.
Yeah.
It becomes totally clear because you're looking around thinking, I almost want to become that guy who's going to hunt down these damn college kids.
And all the people that are saying, oh, Sasquatch, I'm like, oh, well, after living here for a while, the way it rains and it's so foresting, and I'm like it might be just a normal guy who grew extra hair because it rains
Yeah.
all the damn time.
Just a winter coat to stay warm.
Yeah, Doug told the most hilarious story one time on my radio show, and I had a guy there who was a Sasquatch hunter, and he had this album of all these pictures of blurry things in trees that could have been, well, pretty much anything, And he kept, claiming they were all Sasquatch, they were Bigfoot, and he was telling the story about one being on the beach, and Doug. He comes back with, oh, yeah, I saw one on the beach, but it didn't have any teeth. And the guy's like, oh, no, they have lots of teeth. And he goes, no, this one didn't have any teeth. And it ran off to the Devereux Center and got some fentanyl. And it was just, that look on his face like, you don't believe me? No, I'm not buying that one. It's an interesting story, but,
Well,
I don't know.
Half of the Bigfoot sightings and half of the Chupacabra sightings in Southern Oregon actually originate at the Devereux Center.
Yes.
They come from there, and I'm not 100% convinced they're all human anyway. So there might be some validity to it, but that is kind of the epicenter, the hive, if you will. And now they're putting the fence around. I don't know if they're going to electrify it to keep them in. I think there's genetic engineering going on. I think there's a secret government lab that goes on in the back of the building, and they're crossbreeding and trying to make some kind of super squatch that we can use to fight wars with. In the meantime, they just defecate on the streets and inject fentanyl or smoke fentanyl and commit crimes. But until the science is proven.
So
They have to.
I'm rooting
They
for.
have to find a way to direct their energy. You know, all the energy that they're using to throw hammers through windows and walk in front of cars without any fear. Yeah, I see your point, because if they can just redirect that and harness those super I'm on fentanyl powers, I think you're right. We create a whole new species. Marty, what do you think? Are you with us on this?
Well, I'm like, I was like kind of thinking about it, and I kind of agree. They might be doing some sort of weird crossbreeding at the Devereux Center, and for all we know, there might already be Sasquatches there. It's just hard to tell because they're so like cranked up on fentanyl and crack and whatever's going on
And
this week.
the director, Tara Johnson, they were actually, so I can't say I heard this directly, but third party, her husband, they were actually using him as a test specimen. They were attempting to try to create a human being that was impervious to alcohol, but it turns out it didn't work. So he got arrested so many times for DUI that they actually put him in jail for 90 days and took away his license for life. So that was a failed experiment, but at least they tried.
So I don't know if Marty, if you've been keeping up on the Devereux Center. I know it's one of Doug's goals in life to make sure and finally see the last nail in the coffin of the Devereux Center. And I am with him myself. I'm tired of enabling the drug addicts and criminals on the streets today. And what do you think about the city? Wait, after Drew Farmer, who's running for commissioner, has left the council decided to vote and do something about the Devereux Center and give them a warning by sending them a letter saying if you don't clean it up in 30 days, they're going to shut it down, which is in about, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks from now. What do you think of this?
Well, first off, good luck cleaning it up, because this is a never-ending cycle of government agencies saying we need to solve the homeless problem. So we're going to give like $1 million bazillion to the Devereux Center, and the Devereux Center doesn't really do anything to solve the homeless situation. They essentially just get a whole bunch of money to put up facilities to make it look like they're doing something to help people. And then they don't really help them, and then they exacerbate the problem because now they have all these drunks and meth heads and crackheads and whatnot wandering around and creating other problems. And then they go, well, if we just had more money, we could fix this problem. And the government's going, well, we look really good when we give money to homeless situations. So if the Devereux Center actually solved problems, they would stop getting money. And I can't imagine anybody that's getting a bunch of free money to do absolutely nothing would at some point go, maybe we ought to affect a solution and solve this problem. Oh, but wait, then we wouldn't get all this money. So no, it's never going to happen. Yeah, it's just a never-ending cycle.
It goes around and around and around. Yeah, absolutely. And people are making money off of it.
Yeah, when I lived in Oakland, California, like every single year we had a new tax hit. And it's like, we're going to raise property taxes by X amount because we need to solve the homeless problem. And then what they would do is they would set up an advisory board of a bunch of people that got paid $400,000 a year to sit around and come up with solutions for the homeless problem. And then they wouldn't solve it, but all the money that came out of the raised property taxes would go to pay for all these people on these boards and all these consultants.
Yes.
And so they'd get $20 million and $18.5 million would go to paying people to solve the problem. And of course, you pay me a lot of money to solve a problem. And you say, you know what, but if you don't solve the problem next year, we're going to give you more money. And I'm like, well,
yeah, I love that system. We're going to reward your failure by giving you more money. That's the system here. And so do you think it's real, Doug? Do you think this is real this time? What do you think?
No, I think it's smoke and mirrors. I think there's a little bit of concern, and maybe they're kind of pointing in a direction, but the whole Drew Farmer thing is highly suspicious, to say the least. I think at the last minute they're going to come up with like, okay, well, they're showing an improvement, so we're gonna let them continue on and continue to have the license. I think it's right now, and I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like it's just to sate the citizens, to sate the voters, and make them feel like, okay, something's getting done at this place. I don't know why it took this long. I mean, the wheels of government move slowly, and I'm not saying this is being done nefariously by the people in government or local government. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't know exactly what's going on, but I'm highly suspicious, and I'm doubtful that any change will really be affected in the end. This kind of stuff usually doesn't go away. When this kind of stuff, it's like a tick or chigger. It gets in you and it just stays there. And I mean, every time I drive by, there's like a new window smashed out, a new piece of plywood up, and it's just looking good. Just looking good. Tara does a great job between Twinkies and driving her drunk licenseless husband around.
Have you
they're just doing a great job.
Have you heard about, and this is something that came out years and years ago, Benetti at one time said he wanted to put these guys, these homeless people, in the middle of the county's rural area, somewhere in the woods, basically. He wanted to have some place where every city can send their homeless person. And I guess we were going to have to build a facility, but this was years ago. And now he's found that facility. He's looking at Benetti's, I'm sorry, not Benetti's, Boys Baloney's Ranch. You know where that is, south of Coos Bay. They're looking at that, and they're considering renting it from the county. So the county will make some money off this facility, and then they're going to put up a facility just like the Devereux Center, and hopefully get rid of the Devereux Center, because their end goal, from what I understood, and this is from background talk that I've had with some of my sources, is that they want to put Drew Farmer in charge of that, get rid of Tara Johnson. They want to get rid of her because she doesn't impose the rules, and she's rubbed quite a few of the administrators wrong by not doing something to make them look better. They don't like it when people are doing stuff that makes them look bad, and they don't want to reward that. So they want to put Drew Farmer in there, and they want to move it down south to the Boys Baloney Ranch. And that was the plan. They will use the CAT system, the public bus system, to take them from the cities to the Boys Baloney Ranch and back again, just like they were a library book in a library system. How do you like?
Still not fixing a problem. Still not fixing a problem. I mean, when you said you could drop them off out, I thought like drop them off out in the woods. Here's a flint and steel. Here's a pocket knife. Live or die, buddy. Figure it out. I was excited at first when you're talking about that, but you got to start putting them in a camp. There was a guy that did that in the 40s. He had a little different idea though, but he put people in camps like that too, out in the middle of nowhere. But these people, you can't fix them. These aren't people that want to be fixed and want to be helped. There are lots of people that want to be helped, and they will get help. They are smart enough. They have the wherewithal. Their brains aren't fried on drugs, and they will get the help they need. The rest of them, you got to push them out of your damn neighborhood. You have to make it uncomfortable for them. You have to make it unlivable for them. Oh, at first, when we used to start talking about this, people would say, well, where are they going to go then, Doug? Where are they going to go? And my answer was, I don't give a shit. I don't care where they go. Go crawl in a ditch and die. Go live your life and succeed. I don't care. You are now causing a problem. You need to leave our area. My kids don't. And again, I've talked about this 1,000 times. Driving down the street with my kids, seeing a chick cop a squat on the sidewalk. Had to explain the two guys smoking meth, smoking crack, smoking. I don't know what it was, but they had their little pipes out, sitting right on the sidewalk, and they're like, "What are they doing, Dad?" I was like, oh, "These are bad people. These are bad people doing bad things." And they, "Oh no, they're not bad people. You don't know. You haven't been in their shoes, right? I'm not a freaking crack smoking idiot. I'm not. I've never been in their shoes. And I never. You're only one paycheck away from the same thing. I'm one paycheck away from being a strung out junkie criminal. Shut your mouth. All these people that talk like that, take them into your damn homes. Take them into your damn home."
Yeah, if you're
it's half a beer and I'm just ready to fight.
Yeah,
it's ranting. We're ranting, damn it. Go ahead, Marty. I'm sorry.
If you're that adamant about it, I mean, all the people that are like, "Oh, you're only one paycheck away from being that person yourself," or and I'm like, well, if you're that adamant about it, then do you have any spare bedrooms? Why don't you take them in? Hey, why don't you rehab your garage and turn it into a place where a couple of people could crash for the night? I mean, put your money where your mouth is. If you truly feel that way, then you will step up and fix the problem. You will help fix the problem. When I lived in Berkeley, I got tired of being, I got tired of spare changers that I saw every day. And finally, at one point, I sat down with one of them. I'm going, "Okay, what's the problem? Why are you here? You don't seem to be a drug addict." And it's like, and he gave me this big long sob story. And I said, "Okay, let's see how we can fix this." And eventually I got him to where he got a job at the Oakland airport as a baggage handler. And I never saw him on the street again after that. So at that point, I just basically said, okay, I can't fix everybody's problem, but I can fix one person's problem.
Yep.
And if like 100 people did that, or 1,000 people did that, and we've got 65,000 people in this county, a couple thousand people step up and do that, well, then maybe the problem will go away. Secondly, you're talking about the bus to take them out to the Bologna Ranch or wherever, and whatever happened to that, whatever happened to that jail at like Shelter Cove or something, where it was like, they shut it down. I'm like,
Shutter Creek.
Shutter Creek.
Shutter Creek.
Yeah.
Shelter. What did you call it? Shelter Cove?
Shelter Cove.
Isn't that like
yeah.
one of the Starlight movies or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, there was like a movie that was like Shudder. It was basically this horror movie about an insane asylum. But I'm like, if you're going to put them somewhere secure, and then all this money is going to Coos Health and Wellness and so forth and so on in the Devereux Center. I'm like, so get a bunch of hired professionals that are going to be able to handle the people that have addiction problems and find out a way to wean them off those addictions. And then actually, I remember back, in the Depression, they had County Conservation Corps. Can't find a job, a little bit down on your luck. Great. Let's go fix some roads. Let's go fix some bridges.
Yeah.
Let's go cut some trees. And they would do work crews, and it would be like, it's not like, slave work crews in the southern prisons or anything. But I mean, it's just like, and once you get somebody cleaned up and they start making some money and they start getting back to a work ethic, and they start enjoying the fact that, look, I did something here. I made a difference. I made this road better. I made this bridge better. I did this better. All of a sudden, now they have purpose, and maybe whatever was driving them to that addiction will be cured or not, but it's worth a try.
We can try, but the thing is I think these people have to be stopped. We have to stop enabling them first. They have to be forced to face the responsibility that no one's going to bail them out. They just raised food stamps exponentially. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the food stamp program, they just got a huge increase on their food stamps. And I think that as soon as they get those cards, they're out there trading them for other stuff than food. And we enable that because they can go to the churches, the charities, all the other places like government entities that provide all the food. They have no reason to want to go get a job. We don't give them any reason to want to go get a job. And if all the towns and the counties just said, look, our people, we don't have any extra money, and we're not going to allow you camping anywhere. We're not on public property, private property. Of course, the state of Oregon allows that through the legislature. But if we didn't do that and we didn't enable them and sent them down the road, at a certain point, they're going to realize they're going to have to clean up or not. But I hear this about the mental health, and I hear this about getting counselors, but I don't think these people want to listen as long as we're going to enable them. And by the way, I thought it was funny, Marty. Someone said that you should be the Secretary of State. You would make a perfect one. Just to let you know.
Oh my goodness, no. Yeah, you do not want to put me in a position of power. I'm not that guy. I am like the kind of guy that you're going, oh my God, he's actually forcing people to do things that are correct. We can't have that happening because our whole legislature is based on graft and corruption and money laundering and patronization and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not about that. I'm about we have a problem we need to solve, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to step on a lot of toes to do it. Which means, as a politician, I'll last 15, 20 minutes.
Right, exactly. Politics is a difficult game. You got to mire yourself in it, and
I can't pass a psych profile for that one. I mean, I don't suffer. I do not suffer fools gladly, and it would be like, and Marty's career in politics, while brilliant, lasted 12 minutes and 35 seconds.
Do either of you know Archie Garrett, who owns Wilson's Market?
I've met him.
Okay. Marty's a really nice guy. I know his father. His father has done a few movies in Hollywood, and they're a good family. I've coached some of their kids in years past, but Archie's a really good guy. And you always hate to ask people to go into politics because you get guys like Archie who are good guys, and they're eventually going to turn into one of those political guys if they stay in politics too long. And so you want good people to go to office, but you hate it when it's your friends, because at some point you're going to have to say, wow, that was a really shitty decision. What the hell were you thinking? You know what I mean? Because they are essentially our employees, and you're going to have to critique them. And so not Marty. So Archie has been going around, and I did an interview with him where I asked him, what is your top issue? And he's answering like this: well, I really don't know much about the issues. I'm just running so they have new blood and the fresh face on the board, and we'll see what happens when I get there. And it's like, no meat to this at all. You know what I mean?
He started doing political speak, which is like,
yeah. Well, I don't know if it's really political speech or if he, because like I said, he's I don't know if he's kind of naive and doesn't want to answer, and he doesn't know how to answer the question, or if he's being a shyster and saying, well, I know the answer, but I don't want to give you my opinion because you're probably going to disagree with me. So I don't know, Marty, if he's doing one or the other.
Yeah, and I kind of understand that, and I'm also, the best way to ruin somebody who's a really nice person is to put him into politics, because at some point, and I liked it wasn't Noah, I think it was Art Robinson at the last CRL meeting was saying, as Noah said, he's like going, yeah, when it comes down to a decision, I basically go with what is the right thing to do. Not as what's the right thing to do for my career, what's the right thing to do for my constituents so that I get some of these dollars that flow into my district. It's what's the right choice, like tampons in the men's bathroom or boys' bathroom. That's right. Just wrong. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to stay out until they decide to not do this bill. And he walked out, and he paid the price for doing it. And so, and his son, Art, is like stepping up and going, I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm like and I said, wow, I really applaud the fact that you're going to step into your father's shoes and give it a shot. But as I said in that meeting, he says, well, I'm going to continue to do the right thing. And I'm like yeah, like Mike Tyson says, you have a lot of plans until you get punched in the face. Yeah. And I'm like he's going to get punched in the face, and punched in the face hard. And you don't want to see that as somebody that you respect. You're like you have to be, you have to have some sort of ability to have like moral fluidity, I think is the nicest way to say it, where you're like, okay, I'm really not agreeing with that one. But if I scratch that back, then maybe I'll get some stuff for my people. So maybe I'll compromise this time. And once you start doing that, it's a slippery slope. And the next thing you know, you're going, hi, I'm David Brock Smith, and I am putting in wind turbines, and I think tampons and children's bathrooms is a great thing. And I'm like, and then when everybody gives him backlash for it, he's like, I never said that. I'm like, true politician. You never said that. But politician.
That's what was nice about Noah Robinson. And I think the bill you were talking about wasn't the tampon bill. It was the child mutilation bill.
Oh, yeah. You can get an abortion. You can get an abortion as a preteen, and you don't have to tell your parents, and the doctor doesn't have to tell your parents. As a matter of fact, if the doctor does tell your parents, the doctor is going to be liable. And I'm like, so that's basically
that current law.
Yes,
that's the pro-grooming bill. What's that, HB 2002 or something?
Yeah. Oh, and you can get a transition without telling your parents as well. And so after you do the pregnancy, after you go in at 11 and get your abortion, then you can become a male and completely throw the whole scale off. I mean, it's just
what happened to the Hippocratic Oath?
What happened to that?
Well, I think that was all taken care of by the Affordable Health Care Act, where if you don't agree with what the government says, you don't get your money anymore.
Fair.
And so there you go. But I mean, it's like, so who in their right mind would actually say, what's a good idea? Allowing 13-year-old girls to get abortions. I mean, okay, tragically that does happen, but who is passing a bill that says, I want to make sure the state law says it's okay? Yeah. And I'm like everybody that's pushing that bill, are you essentially just shouting to the world that you're a pedophile? Is that what you're saying? Because I know I'm going to slip up and get my 13-year-old girlfriend pregnant,
Right.
and I don't want anybody to know about it. I mean, what other pinnings would be underneath a reason for that bill? I mean, who comes up with this kind of stuff? Unless, of course, you're committing those kind of heinous acts where you need to have government coverage for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a House Bill 2002, and the gun bill 2005 was the reason Art Robinson and the other senators walked out. I kind of got to change the subject here because
Oh, wait,
it's I
wait.
got
One last thing about the buses. You know, you
yeah
said, oh, they're going to use CCAT to take the people to the Oscar Mayer Baloney Center.
yeah
I'm like, oh, well, instead of taking them there, why don't they just take them to like Eugene or Salem or someplace that's like super into the whole like kumbaya. We want to help all the homeless people, and it's like, tell you what, we'll like as a matter of fact, I'll be more than happy to chip in to fill buses full of homeless people in Coos Bay and send them to Eugene and go, your problem now. You're the ones saying that you can fix this, and oh my God, we got to treat them with respect. And I'm like, okay, there's like 15 bus loads. Treat them with respect. Have a nice day.
yep yep. So I want to get on to this next issue because this is something I was hoping Rob could maybe help us out with. Just recently, the Oregon Fish and Department of Fish and Wildlife decided to collect 37,000 smolts from one of the hatcheries here in the county. And they took the smolts down to, I'll let Rob tell us where it was. I'm sure he'll know. But it was in the Coquille River, or the tributary to the Coquille River, and they dumped the fish in, and the fish died. 37,000. This is the fourth time it's happened. And Rob, I want to hear, what do you think the hell is going on with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service?
Well, it's ODFW. I think they're grossly negligent at what they do. I've been screaming from the top of my lungs for almost a decade now what just a corrupt, vile organization they are. We need a management organization. We do, not the ODFW, or completely gut it. And to tell a quick little sidebar, and I've told it before, and you've probably heard it, and I apologize, but I've been in their restroom at their headquarters in Salem. It is the most opulent, palatial restroom. I've been in restaurants that are not as nice as this thing, with bronze, custom-made inlaid bricks. The carpet in their boardroom, giant boardroom, is woven with the logo of the ODFW. I mean, it's just a large S, just the expense, just the, oh, we don't have enough money to do stuff. We don't have enough money for research. We can't do this. We can't do that. I say that they start using old-fashioned typewriters. They buy their own pens. They stop using company vehicles, and we start firing a bunch of these people because they're inept. And I've been screaming for almost a decade what a vile organization they are. And it's given me a little bit of peace lately, just seeing so many more people jumping on the bandwagon going, what's wrong with these people? There's one of two things. They are completely inherently evil and are doing evil deeds intentionally, or they are just grossly negligent and bad at what they do. If someone tasked me with living animals to look after them, hey Rob, I hear you open a dog kennel. You're looking after dogs. Yeah, I am. Bring your dogs to us. So a bunch of people bring me their dogs. And then I just kill them all. I didn't feed the stupid things. I didn't water them. I had other stuff to do. They all died. Guess what? There's going to be all kinds of criminal charges brought against me. Now, these guys, these local biologists from the Charleston office, are responsible for the death of 37,500 fish that belong to the people of Oregon. But if you ask them in their arrogance, they say these belong to the state. Oh, I tell you what, that type of nasty socialist attitude is what has to go. These people work for us. They should be licking our boots right now and apologizing and groveling for the gross misconduct and errors that they make on a regular basis. When they shut down Canary Rockers, oh, Rob, biologist in my shop, almost tears in his eyes. It's going to take 100 years to bring them back from the brink of extinction. It's the most horrible thing ever. 3 years later, I go out and catch 10. Shit, there's so many of them. We don't know what to do with them all. Yeah, we were wrong about the other stuff. No, they didn't even say that. They didn't say we were wrong. We changed it. We changed the science. When you're that wrong, people were fined. People had lost fishing tackle. People got criminal charges for keeping canary rockfish. And it turns out that they didn't have to do it because there were so many out there that they didn't have to put those restrictions on, and it didn't take 100 years for them to come back, and everything was just grossly negligent or lies. Which is it? And with these fish, they dump them in an estuary. Dana Mills has a great video that he posted where he's out there shortly after it happened, and they took. I mean, anybody can look. You can put goldfish in this thing. It is a little tributary right there that is still water on a warm part of the year with little to no oxygen in it, no moving water, and they dumped all these fish. They dumped tens of thousands of fish that belong to the people of the state of Oregon into it, and those fish subsequently expired. Those fish represent so much money. They represent so much culture. And I always talk about the culture of fishing. The culture of all the outdoor things that we do here is inherent and it is ingrained, and it is something that goes back since the beginning years of the state of Oregon, and even before that. And these people, these clowns at the ODFW, are dismantling it piece by piece by piece. Those fish represented fathers and sons going out fishing. They represented the tribes going out fishing. They represented the little old man that can't do a whole bunch anymore, but he can go out with some friends on a boat and catch a salmon. It represents so much. It represents food on people's tables that they're able to go out and feed themselves. It represents money for the tackle shops, for the gas stations, for the people that sell boats. It represents so much. And the gross mishandling of this, if anybody else did it, if anybody that didn't work for the state did this, they would absolutely be brought up with some kind of charges. At the very least, there would be an investigation and potential indictment. Absolutely. And I think there should be. And I'm so tired of getting away with everything that they do and everything that they don't do.
I 100% agree with you. I love that rant, man. That was natural. That flowed straight from the heart, man. That was beautiful.
100%.
I am going to clip that, and I'm going to play that for every other show that I do. I mean, just from now on, I'm just, I hope you don't mind. We're stealing your photo and your identity, and that is beautiful. I've been fighting against the ODFW for all the way going back to the Bandon Marsh. Mike Gray, who was the biologist mentioned to that. Oddly enough, me and Mike just recently agreed on the only issue I think we've ever agreed on, and that's the wind turbines. Mike is highly against that wind turbine project off the coast. It's a really bad idea. He doesn't like it. Other than that, me and Mike Ray pretty much disagree on everything in politics or what he thinks is right about nature. And I've talked to other biologists who I've had on the show, and these are old school biologists, kind of like Mike, but not the hippie kind, the good kind that, voted for Reagan and loves the environment, loves clean water, loves clean air, but doesn't buy into all this climate crap that's going on. And I'm sure that I'm waiting for the report to come out on this, and what part of it, which paragraph is going to be dedicated to this was caused by climate change. You watch, that's going to come out.
Right.
Oh, exactly.
And they're going to say it wasn't our fault. It's because man has dirtied up the planet to the point where we now have climate change. So what we need to do is do a bigger setback from the river. It's going to be another 100 yards on top of whatever we have now. And that's because of climate change and the fact that we actually screwed up and are blaming.
You are right.
Yep.
You are 100% right. That's the playbook. That's the playbook.
And
my brain doesn't work that way, so I never think of that.
Yeah, you know what they really need to do, though, is they need to flood some old cow pastures, because that's really going to help out the salmon. At least that's what they're trying to do in Coquille, isn't it? Where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna take all these old cow pastures, and in the winter we're gonna flood them, and it's going to be a natural environment for the, and it's like, hold on, you just killed how many thousands of smolt? I'm pretty certain that you guys really don't know what you're talking about. And I really like Doug's rant or Rob's rant about the whole and they're never held accountable. I mean, it's similar with the wind turbine stuff where they're like, okay, well, we're going to lease out these things, and we're not going to do an EPA thing, and we're not going to do an environmental impact study. And then when they're doing construction, we're not going to do the same thing we do to fishermen, where it's like, all commercial fishermen have to have a government inspector on their boats, making sure that they never damage an albatross. And I'm like going, okay, you should be doing the same thing for the people doing the construction, shouldn't you? But no, it's rules for thee, not for me. I'm the guy holding the rule book, and if you don't like it, well, tough. What are you going to do? You can't fire me. You didn't elect me. I'm somebody that was appointed by these mentally incapacitated people that you elected. You know, I'm trying to be as nice as possible, but
Right.
it's just like I didn't hire the ODFW people, and it's like I know people that actually know how to do this kind of work. I've talked to people like in my neighborhood. We have the you can't go on the beach from March 15th to September 15th because you might endanger a snowy plover. And I'm like going, okay, but everybody I talked to that actually works on this project said it's actually decimated the population of the snowy plover because without people walking up and down the beach, the predators are not afraid to come onto the beach and decimate the snowy plovers. The snowy plover population is going down the tubes. And I'm like going, each one of these regulations should have a sunset that says, okay, we're going to try this for 3 years and we're going to get a head count. And if the head count goes down, you know what? We're going to change the regulations. But I mean, just putting in a dictate that says you can't go on the beach from March 15th to September 15th because you might injure a snowy plover, or you can't go into the forest because you might hurt a spotted owl. And I'm like going, well, you've already hurt like 50,000 people in our county because you decimated the lumber industry and you got rid of all these jobs and you get rid of all these industries for a spotted owl. What's a spotted owl ever done for me? You know how many spotted owls it takes to make a happy? Yeah, I'm like going, how many spotted owls does it take to make a Happy Meal? I mean,
yeah. Like Rob said, I bet they are delicious and we should try a few. They're going to kill, I forget how many barred owls to save the spotted owl. And I thought they were all diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, except for you barred owls. We don't want your kind around. We've seen what you're a lazy bird. You don't work. You're just lazy.
They're barred owls.
Yeah,
and they're barred owls, right? Which means they're Shakespearean, which means I guess they're intellectuals, which means, it's like we don't want any damn intellectuals in the forest. We want the dumb spotted owls because the intellectuals are giving us too much problems.
Yeah, no, and that's what we've done. Okay, so we have done this, and it's funny because these same biologists talk about evolution. They talk about so. By the way, every time you guys take a sip, I take one.
Oh,
so they talk about the evolutionary. Oh, geez, now he's had one. I was having another. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I had to walk away to go get another beer because I don't have a fridge in my office.
Funny. They talk about survival of the fittest. And they talk about the evolutionary change of things, and all this stuff sounds really valid. But okay, survival of the fittest. They talk about it. They teach it. They preach it. But we don't practice it. Just like the barred owl. Well, the barred owl is the strong one. He's the badass owl that's coming in, kicking other owls' butts, and living and being strong. Cool. Let's bring in the new barred owl. And we do the same thing with people. We now take the weak, we take the Devereux people, we take the drug addled, we take the criminals that don't want to work, let's prop them up. Let's take those. What about survival of the fittest? How about we stop freaking feeding you and you live or die?
Yep.
And it's the same thing with the animals. And they teach the one thing, but they apply a completely different science. They talk about biologists not knowing stuff. I love this story. This happened up in the People's Republic of Canada. I think it was British Columbia, Canada. And they had an issue with a bunch of wildlife going across a major highway and getting smushed by trucks and vehicles all the time. So they came up with a great plan. And it was not ill-intended, but these biologists got together and they spent gazillions of dollars, Canadian dollars, which is like, I don't know, $1.50 in America. And what they did is they dug these giant tunnels under the roads. And people could traffic over top, and all the animals learned to migrate under these tunnels. Hey, we don't have to cross the road and get killed anymore. They put up these giant fences. Now they have these tunnels. Well, what happened is the predators, the wolves and the bears and stuff, realized, hey guys, just crack open a pack of Marlboro and a 6-pack of Bud Light, and we'll sit on the outside of this tunnel, and all these animals come to us, and we eat them. And they were losing so many animals, they had to rethink the whole process. That's your biologists at work. Regular folks don't do that job. It's a special kind of person, and not always in a good way.
Doug, you know what you just described? You just described public housing. All those public housing projects back in the big cities, remember? They put up you can't find housing, so we're going to give you housing, free housing, up in these beautiful places that were really crap, thin walls, weren't very well taken care of.
Oh,
and then all of a sudden, you got the predators at each end of the hallway getting money and taking, money from them for different for their safety or for their rent themselves. And that's what has happened with these inner city projects. Just what you talked about, government did to the animals what they're doing to humans.
Yeah, and they did the same thing. I mean, you're talking about the pinch points for, okay, all the elk and the deer and whatnot are going to use those tunnels, and then all the predators are going to sit there and go, hey, I don't have to hunt anymore. I just got to sit here and pick them off as they go by. And they did the same thing. I think it was in Yellowstone, where it's like, oh, we got to get rid of the wolves. We got to get rid of the wolves because they're decimating the elk and the bison and the deer. And so they did it. And what happened was it changed the whole ecostructure so that the deer and the elk and the bison were grazing everything to the ground, which was changing. There was no more small trees anymore, which means the rivers could flow wherever they wanted. It changed the whole ecosystem. And finally, they said,
that.
And then they, oddly enough, admitted their mistake and said, hey, we're reintroducing wolves because, we got to the point where there were so many deer and elk and bison that they overbred and they couldn't survive anymore. And not only that, they screwed up the environment horribly. And, and then they went back to, okay, let's put the wolves back in, and natural selection started working again. And then you had the strong deer survive. You had the strong elk survive. You had the strong bison survive. And you had the strong wolves survive. And everything worked. And the environment went back to the way it was, which is you had savannas and plains and trees and small trees. And then the beavers could start building dams again. And everything was hunky-dory. And it was like, okay. But when they say, oh, well, we want the environment back to the way it was, I'm going, well, what time period are you talking about? Because 14,000 years ago, we were under 1 mile deep of ice sheet. We want to go back that far? I mean, pick a time frame. When do you, it's like, well, we ought to get back to the way it was before humans were here. And I'm like going, well,
rewilding.
Yeah. And I'm like going, you got to realize the 4 billion years the Earth has been here, it's had a lot of big changes in the environment. And we haven't had any real global warming that has been caused by humans. It's mostly caused. It's mostly caused. It's caused by sunspots.
Planetary warming. How arrogant are these people to say that? Well, because you drive your cars and use your microwave ovens and use plastics and styrofoam, that the Earth is heating up and it's killing the newt, and then the newt dies, and then the spotted owl dies. Like, shut up, stop it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So what because I was just talking about this story about the smolts. This is where we led into this climate change conversation. And you were talking about how I was pretty good at predicting the spin, and that's exactly how I think it's going to come out. They're going to blame climate change, but I'm going to give you something even deeper here. This was intentional. And I don't have any proof whatsoever other than the people I have met currently in ODFW. I know some biologists, Stuart Love. He's a pretty all right guy. Even Mike Gray, I don't think would be someone to do this intentional. However, I think some of these new biologists are buying into what they call the native fish theory. And there's a native fish society. And I don't, if you remember that 20-year-old, it was a couple of months ago, poured bleach in one of the fish tanks and killed all the fish there because he believed that they were inferior to the native fish and wanted to destroy them. And that's a philosophy that's now permeating all the same people who believe in this climate change religion. And it is a religion. Don't doubt it for a second, because they've got a God, it's Mother Earth, and they worship it. And people be damned, because we got to put Mother Earth above people for some sick reason. I always wonder why they don't take themselves out first. But my belief is that there are people inside the ODFW, because it's happened 4 times. They're biologists. They know. I could look at this river. Rob, Doug, I mean, you could look at this river. Even Marty, I think, could look at this river and go, this is not conducive to putting 37,000 fish in there. And I recommend people, if you haven't been out here, gosh, I'm trying to think where the road.
And last I checked, I mean, salmon go and lay their eggs in areas where there's running water and there's gravel or sand. because that's the best way that those eggs can survive, is they'll nestle in the rocks and the gravel and the sand, and then they'll be able to, do their like growing thing without too much hassle from the predators. They don't grow in dead water. They don't grow in muddy water. And, it's like, okay, if you're going to put them somewhere where it's running water that is like fresh water, that is sandy and gravel and all that good stuff, but not in a freaking slough where it's like a mud bog that's probably been contaminated by some lumber mill that was there, or canning factory that was there like 100 years ago. I mean, let's be realistic about this. I mean, the people that took down the Shasta dams, they were like going, well, we want the salmon to survive. And I'm like going, well, hold on. The Shasta dams have been there for so long that none of the salmon that used to go up past the Shasta dams are around anymore. So there's nothing that's going to be going upstream past those dams. Oh, and by the way, when you took those dams down, all the crap that was behind those dams ran downstream and killed the deer, killed the elk, killed all the fish in the river, and and just completely changed the whole environment downstream. And it's like, well, why isn't anybody going, wow, that was really horrible? Where are all your Greenpeace and environmental and tree hugging people now going, that was just really horrible? I mean, there's mud that's like 6 feet deep. Deer are getting stuck in the mud and starving to death. Yeah, but what about the non-existent salmon that needed to get up above the dam up there that doesn't exist anymore? And I was like, well, they stopped going past that dam when the dam was put in back in 1918 or whatever.
So, but I mean, so none of your business. Hold on, Marty. None of your business just made a comment, and I think it is absolutely correct what he's saying here. He says, and it's just a coincidence, coincidence, of course.
Coincidence,
experts are all leftist. Isn't that strange? Yeah. How every single one of these biologists lean to the left, and I've talked to several of them. I've talked to people in ODFW, and they all seem to lean to the left. And it's come on.
You can't
get the younger generation coming in, like you were saying. The younger ones that are coming in, they're bringing a lot of these guys from places like New York State and things like that, where there's even more of a propensity to be more on the left side of things. I've been pleasantly surprised lately. I've got to know a retired ODFW biologist who through a friend. He was just the neatest, most amazing guy. And it's interesting, the story, we've spent time fishing together, and the stories he'd share and tell me, and the things he advocates for. And I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but the stuff that he does, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what an ODFW biologist is supposed to be like. This is what it's supposed to be. Very conservation minded, but not environmentally minded, not like a wackadoodle environmentalist, but a conservationist. Let's look after the stuff and have it, but let's get out there, cut them, gill them, fry them, and eat them. He's a consumptive user, loves the outdoors, and was a biologist for years and years, and worked on some major projects in the state. And just hearing the stories, it's exciting for me to hear, and it brings me hope and joy. And then I think, oh yeah, he's retired.
He's retired.
It's these guys coming from the East Coast and wherever else that don't have your best interest in mind. They don't care about you. They care about the fish. You talk about the religion. The left is having a religion. It's Mother Earth is their religion, and this is their crusade.
Well, none of the studies, environmental impact studies or any of those studies, none of those get done by people that don't have an opinion one way or the other. And the thing is government grants don't go to people that don't agree with what the government wants to get done.
Right.
So all this green energy stuff and all this global climate change stuff, well, the government people, and we'll call them the deep state goons, they understand this is a great way to launder money. I'm going to put $1 billion into a wind turbine that's never going to make any money. But you know what? The company that got that $1 billion contract is going to give me probably about $750 million back to my campaign finance fund. And so therefore, it's great. And it's like, so the people that are in power stay in power because they keep selecting people and putting people into positions of power that only do what they can do, and they're trying to make sure that we're all going to be living on the government teat for the rest of our life. It's like, they're cutting down the areas where you can fish. They're cutting down the areas where you can log. They're reducing the amount of availability to actual jobs unless your job is working for the government. And then if you're working for the government, guess what? You gotta do what the government tells you to do. And it's like,
and we get more and more of them working for the government every year. But Doug, this is exactly why I wanted you on the show, because I knew that this is one of those issues which isn't just affecting the ODFW. It's affecting the BLM, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's affecting the whole Department of Interior. The Department of Agriculture is just filled with these green weenies, or as none of your business call them, watermelons. They're green.
I haven't heard that term forever. I love it.
I know. I loved it.
And he's got one up now. It says the deep scum. Yeah, it's all about money and control. And he's absolutely right. These people, they say that they're trying to do it in our best interest, and we see with our own eyes. I love how they tell us. My favorite is, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't look behind the curtain. No, don't believe your lying eyes. That what you see, that's not true. And it's the same shit that went on during 2020 when they were telling us they were just having peaceful protests. Those same people that was 4 years ago, they're now working for ODFW. I guarantee you they've got some government job, because it was people in government who was supporting that crap in the first place. And now we are reaping the whirlwind for having this generation come up being so indoctrinated into this BS. And I've seen them, I've talked to them, and it's just infuriating. And so I believe that when this report comes out, it's going to be climate change this, climate change that. And somehow, hopefully, we might be able to find out the truth, that it's these green weenies who are former Antifa who are now doing what they did best and sabotaging us, because it's in their ideology. It's part of their religion now. And it's going to get worse, because I believe that generation has to filter through, and the damage they can do, because they're the ones who take those government jobs, is going to be immense. It's going to be huge.
Yeah. And they're the ones that seek out government jobs. I'm going to date myself here, but I may or may not remember when the Clintons got in office. And when they did a naval jet flyover, maybe it was Air Force, I think it was naval for some reason, and Hillary Clinton looked up and said, "Look at that. Those are our jets now. Those are our planes now." Mm-hmm. What? And that is part of that culture of division that we have. And we have these people that are so divided. I think like America used to be, we've got a difference of opinion. We don't necessarily want to use the same methodology to get to the same result, but typically we all wanted the same result. We all loved America. We wanted her to prosper. We wanted her to succeed, and we don't have that anymore. And people are like, well, we want families to do better, and we want us to be at the top of the food chain. That is no longer the truth. There's these people in these positions. They despise America. They don't like the nuclear family. They think people shouldn't. We're not part of the equation when it comes to the environment. We are taken out of that equation completely, and the salmon are put in. The spotted owls put in, and that is the highest pinnacle of their logic and their reasoning. The man that comes above that we're in, like, everything is here for us to use and utilize and take care of, but they take us out of the equation, and then nothing else works. Once you take that last giant building block, that's us, out of the equation, the rest of it doesn't hold up.
So totally switching the gears here, and this still is intersectional. It intersects with what we're talking about, but it does change to a whole nother issue. We've got two different candidates running for the Board of Commissioners. We've got one of these young DEI wokesters named Drew Farmer, who's all about the whole gay agenda and pride flag everywhere. He's all about this. He's all about the woke. He's all about higher taxes, more government control. He's one of those people who plays into the type of people we were talking about who are now filling up those government bureaucracies. And then we got Bob, who, I've argued with Bob. I've had my problems with Bob and the way he's voted, but he's still an old school conservative type of person who, even though he voted for the taxes, he's still better than someone who's all woke. And that's our choices for commissioner. And I was just wondering, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Doug, Who are you pulling for, and who do you think's going to win? Because I think this is going to be an interesting election.
I mean, if you talk about between Maine and Farmer,
Yeah.
I like Maine. I like Maine. I mean,
Okay.
I do. Again, nobody's perfect, and at the same time, we talk about like, so let's put somebody in that position that is 100% aligned with the way we think. They're not going to get the votes either. So, a guy has to. I don't know, politics. The older I get, the dirtier I see that politics are. Like you can't go in pure and white and clean and stay pure and white and clean. You're going to get sullied in soil, and unless you get down in the muck and the mire, you're not going to be there long. I don't know.
And I just got this comment from one of the guys in Coos Bay, and he says Drew Farmer has a trans lover. He is a customer at my store. He is Antifa. Now, I have heard this too, that he has Antifa connections. And
yeah, I like the screen name for that person that made the comment, Conspiretard.
Conspiretard. Conspire retard.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Everybody calls me a retard because I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like going, well, yeah, I know
Hey, conspiracy theorists are up like 9-1 right now on the national board. I mean, that's
I'm 44-1 at this point, so I'm feeling pretty good about my win-loss record.
I think his name is kind of a play on that because we, the conspiracies are outnumbering the lies, and conspiratard kind of is an oxymoron to prove the point that I'm more than happy to be called a retard if that means I'm going to be right 99 out of 100 times. Yeah.
Conspire retard. Yeah.
Conspire retard.
But and it's like Bob Maine. I mean, I've been involved in Coos County politics for the better part of 4 years now, because it was essentially I kind of got involved because I got sucked into a CRL meeting and somebody said, I wish we could get ballot images. And I'm going, well, why can't we? And then it just went downhill from there, because it's like, so I fought for quite a while to get ballot images and various and sundry other election stuff. And we don't have enough hours in the day to complain about the various county clerks that we've had. But I mean, True Farmer basically, he's essentially everything that is wrong with politics and everything that's wrong with America now, where it's like, okay, you know what? I lived in West Hollywood for 2 years. I lived in an apartment building where there's 300 people. Outside of the landlord and his wife, I was the only straight person in the building. I don't really have a problem with gay people. I mean, it's like any other community. There were some people I really liked. There were some people I really didn't like at all. There are some people, I mean, and I've lived in super poor communities, and I've been super poor myself. And it's like, you look at any microculture, Black, Hispanic, white, Christian, Scientologist, gay, trans, whatever. I know some trans people, and it's like, so long as it's like, okay, I respect you for who you are, you respect me for who I am. But when you start going, oh, you know what? You're going to have to do everything I say. Otherwise, you're a misogynist, or you're a transphobic, or you're a racist, and I'm like, I'm none of the above. But since you decided that you're going to be antagonistic towards me, I no longer have to listen to your BS anymore. So, go take a hike, go pound sand, or whatever you'd like to say. And I'm just like going, Bob Maine he's like the guy who was like working as hard as he can to try to do the right thing. I remember when this wind turbine thing came around, and he actually had a meeting at the Sawdust Theater where we had like, I don't know what, 100, maybe 150 people show up. And I was so completely surprised by that meeting. 1, he organized it. 2, it worked out really well. And 3, every single person that was there, I don't think anybody got up and said, you know what, wind turbines are great. And we had a lot of people that Rob, especially, that would normally say, no matter what Rob said, you know what, here's a big brick of gold that I'm going to give you for free, and they'd chastise him for that. They would, like, no matter what he'd say, it's like, well, if Rob thinks it's good, I think it's bad. People that were those kind of folks were at that meeting going, yes, we think wind turbines are bad. And Bob Maine was instrumental in bringing that about. Bob Main was instrumental in bringing about, and actually Bob Main and Rod Taylor, Commissioner Taylor, were instrumental in getting the ballot measure on this coming election. 6-219, vote yes to stop the wind turbines. It's an advisory measure that we worked hard to get on there. And oh my goodness, the Democrats and the Coos County Democrats and all the rest of those folks were fighting us tooth and nail so that we could not get an advisory measure on a ballot. We're not changing laws. We're not changing regulations. We're not doing anything but asking all 50,000 registered voters in Coos County their opinion on a subject. How democratic can you get? And some of the arguments were like, you're a threat to democracy. And I'm going, hold on, I'm what now?
But allowing people to vote is threatening to democracy, don't you know?
No. Well, we don't want
we have politicians right now saying that the First Amendment is just too broad. It's creating an issue. Like, we have politicians saying that kind of stuff.
Well, of course, it's creating issues for politicians. They don't want people talking smack about them. I mean, come on, we had the media on our side for the last 10, 15 years. I mean, nobody talked smack about Obama. Nobody talked smack about Hillary Clinton. Everybody talked smack about Donald J. Trump. And nobody says anything bad about, the guy who's
what's her name?
It was supposed to be the president and the cackle person. Yeah, I mean the two people that are super mentally incompetent such that they can't finish sentences. The media is giving them full coverage, and it's like, well, you're like, you have to ask yourself, anybody that believes in the media and anybody that's actually easily that confused by the media, then what kind of thinking process are you doing such that you can make an informed idea about what is good and what is not?
So here's my predicament, gentlemen, and I want to ask you what you guys think about this. I had Drew Farmer contact me, not physically because I would have been repulsed, but he did contact me nonetheless. And he asked me if we were going to do a candidates forum, just like we did when Chris Castleman agreed to it. And Bob said that, and I quote him, he doesn't argue with squirrels because he thinks they're both a little squirrely. And so, okay, I really couldn't argue with Bob because they both were a little squirrely. And I was a Chris Castleman guy. I voted for him.
Oh, I love Chris.
Yeah.
I did, but they're both a little squirrely. So I get what Bob was saying. But now Bob is in a really tight race. He's facing a competition that's young, that's hungry, that has a lot of momentum behind him. We can see that by the signs. We can see that by the crowd, the letters to the editor, all that good stuff. And he wants to do that forum on my show, knowing that he's going to reach people he normally doesn't make contact with, not physically, once again, just over the show. And he wants to make contact with those people because he doesn't normally get to speak to those people. And I sent Bob an email, and I've been waiting probably about 24 hours now for his response, but I have a feeling he's not going to want to go on the air. And I've got to decide a couple of things. Do I continue to have Drew Farmer on the show to interview him without Bob, knowing that he's going to make fun of Bob for not showing up and facing off with him, just like Trump did against Biden? Or do I just not have a show covering the commissioners and just let it ride and let the chips fall where they may? I mean, I'm kind of in a predicament because I don't want to hurt Bob, yet Drew knows that I'm pretty fair and balanced and will give him a fair shake in a forum. So that's why he wants to come on. So it puts me in that predicament because if Bob doesn't come on, Drew's going to have every right to say Bob won't even face me in a debate, or even, we call it a forum, but in essence, it's a debate. So, Doug,
that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Strategically, I think it would be a bad idea to do. Speaking strictly, okay. So I'm on the campaign. I'm on Bob's campaign circuit. I'm helping him strategize. I look at that. That's a bad idea. Strategy-wise, that's bad. Don't do it. If you want to do it just for public transparency, just to represent what this nation represents, it might not be a bad idea. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to say do it, but again, I wouldn't want to hurt Bob either. So what do you do? Exactly. Where's my hands? There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
had to figure out where my camera was.
And
so
Bob has gotten to the age, he's gotten to the age where he's a little bit slower. He's not as quick-witted. I think I've heard him say the same joke the last 6 meetings I've seen him in. And so
I do that. My poor wife has heard me tell the same stories and I think sometimes I tell the same stories in the same day. So yeah, I can empathize.
My wife does too. Yes.
I still think he's a little bit sharper than Mr. Sweet, though. Commissioner Sweet, though.
Yes. Oh, totally, completely.
Yeah, but to address your
question, Drew comes on.
Yeah. To address your question on, okay, the only way you're going to have a candidates forum is if you have them both on, and you stipulate that. You say if they're not going to if they're both not going to come on, I'm not going to have a solo shot with True Farmer. And then if you get them both on, the way you can probably get Bob Main to come on is just say, listen, you should get on there and you have your talking points and you just do your talking points. And if Farmer goes off on a rant or a tangent, you just go, well, that's very entertaining, but let's get to what is seriously needed to be done here in Coos County. And just keep deflecting. And the whole idea is, you're not going to be like, the guy from ABC who was like going to be not only the moderator, but the fact checker and shouting down Trump. You're actually going to be the moderator that's actually going to say, listen, go ahead. I'm just going to have to stop you right there. Let Mr. Main finish, let Commissioner Main finish, or, and I don't know what I'm a little worried. I mean, he's been working so hard and doing such a great job, with the materials that he's been given in Coos County. And I think at some point he's kind of burned out. I think the only reason he's running is because he thinks True Farmer is such a squirrel that if he actually did get control, it would be like the complete decimation of anything that's left in Coos County.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say just basically hold your ground and say, if we don't have both candidates on, then I cannot do a debate, because that's not a debate. It's just you spewing whatever you want to spew, and I don't have time for that.
And I would have to I would hit him with a lot of hard questions that I know he would flinch on, because I've had him, like I said, with Chris Castleman doing one of those forums before. And the reason I call it a forum so much and not as a debate is because we have podcasts now. It was much harder on radio because of all the time constraints. Well, I can allow people to answer however they want to answer, as long as they want, as long as they're not going off into the weeds. I'll stop them and say, whoa. If they do a David Brock Smith,
you got 15 seconds to break. Finish up your question.
Yep. Yeah. We're not going to do that. Yeah. And I'll allow everyone to have a rebuttal, and then we go on to the next question. And as a moderator, I only ask questions. I don't interject any of my opinion. I don't fact check anybody. If they want to tell lies, that's up to them. You decide later, and I might talk about it on the next show. You know what I mean? And the only thing that I will do is that I'll have a set of questions, but because of their answer, sometimes I'll have a follow-up question so that I can get them to say more of what I want to know in their answer. And so I think that's one of the reasons they like it to go on my show, because they know they're going to get a fair chance. But I like you said, I probably won't have Drew Farmer on again. I'll move on from there and stipulate that they both have to be on. But I just don't see Bob going on, because I don't, like Doug said, it's 50-50. Is he going to benefit from it, or is it going to hurt him? I would say it's about 50-50. Either one he does.
I think it'll actually benefit him, because there's a lot of people out there that do, watch your podcast and listen to what you have to say, that might not have a great idea of how good Bob Main is for the county. And it would be actually nice for people to see that. And some people that were like completely, totally against Bob Main, to see him actually speak and, have some things to say might be a beneficial thing. So it's basically up to Bob. I mean, Bob's going to do what Bob's going to do. And, and I pretty much, I'm actually fine with a lot of the stuff that he does. It's like, I don't agree with him 100% of the time, but more often than not, if I ask him about it, he'll like go, and this is why I did that. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because I used to bag on him for, you're giving raises to everybody, every single commissioner meeting.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? And he's going, oh, simple answer. It's unions. What else can I do?
Okay, when he buckled to the Democrats, I had a little bit of problem with that, but that's not the only time. But if I had to go ahead, Doug.
What if, okay, so you have Farmer on, you do a thing, you give him 15, 20 minutes. And then what if as a follow-up later on, you have Maine? But now that's not fair to Farmer necessarily, because now Maine has time to refute and rebuke everything. And then you'd have to almost do it in a 3-part, where you'd have Farmer, whoever comes on first gets the first position. Then you have the rebuttal on the next segment, next show, whatever. And then I think you'd almost have to follow up a third time with the first person that was on, so that they have a fair chance to refute and rebuke with some of the stuff that was said. Maybe that's overly simplistic and it wouldn't work. I don't know. But you still have that content. You still have the people come out. There's still a forum for them to express their ideas and stuff, and the people for them to see it. And they would both be able to shine in their best light. I don't know. Maybe that's overly simplistic.
And I kind of thought of that. I thought it would be good. I could record both of them and then play one after the other, and then let them rebut what both of them said. Now, I did think about that as well. That could be something we could do. And, I think that might even be better for Bob, because if we do it that way, when you record it, and because when the recording is going to happen and you're not facing anyone on the other side, it does give you more time to, like you said, Doug, to rebut what he said, because it gives you a little bit of time to think about that when you do the recording.
Yeah. These positions that they're running for are not positions necessarily. They require thought. They're decisions. They have time to process and to think about things. It's not like they're the commander in chief and we're sending people to war and they have to come up with decisions and answers right then and there. So it's not a high pressure position in that respect. So I don't think by doing that, it would necessarily paint a false picture of who they are and how they would be in office.
Yeah,
I will offer that to Bob.
Yeah, and to kind of expand on what Doug was saying and what you were saying, I actually kind of like the whole idea of, okay, you give them a set of questions. You give them 10 questions. What are you going to do about the homeless? What are you going to do about the deficit? What are you going to do about this, that, and the other thing? And then you get them on the air, and you get them on your podcast, and it's just one person at a time, and they answer those questions. And then, if you have follow-up questions, then you write those down and say, okay, we will probably do a follow-up on, things that I want to talk about, to explain more. And then you do the same thing, you do one for, you do one for one guy and one for the other. And then after they've both had a chance to watch their opponent's thing, say, oh, I would like to rebut that, or I would like to, say something about it. So you give them not only the follow-up questions, but you also give them the opportunity to say, oh, and here's why I didn't agree with what this guy said about that. And then, and just make it, it's like, it's going to be a two-parter. They're both going to get 2 times to be on. Right. If they don't want to go head to head, then basically you have to kind of trim it down and just say, this is the best I can do with the materials you're going to give me if you're not going to do a head to head. So what you can do is just like, okay, here's a set questions. I asked them these questions. These are their answers. And, I'm going to do follow-ups with some of this stuff. And then here's the rebuttal. And then here's the other person's, 10 questions. And here's the rebuttal from the other person. And then, okay, everybody's got the same amount of fair airtime. And like you said, it's not like we're doing live radio. I mean, I did live radio for years. And it's just like, and, I'd love to get into this farther, but we got a network hit in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So wrap it up.
They
Or
now you see the complexities of doing debates on live radio and getting guests on live radio, juggling that crap. I'll tell you, and just to go way off into the weeds here, I just did an interview with a guy named Craig Rucker from CFACT. He did that movie Climate Hustle, and he's going to be on the show, and he couldn't do it live because he has meetings on Mondays, and Mondays when I like to do the interview show. And so I had to do 3 interviews with him because the first interview was beautiful. Did it for 45 minutes. I forgot to push the record button. So I get him on for a second time, and he comes on for the second time, and I got the new computer, I got the new camera, everything's a go. 15 minutes in the show, the camera goes out. Then the mic goes out. I still don't know what the hell happened. And so I apologized to him again. Rob, let's do this next week. So this past Tuesday, I finally did the interview. I've got it saved in 3 different places just in case. But I finally got that hour-long interview with Craig Rucker that I'll be playing on Monday. And that's one of those things when I like the live show because you can do a lot more with just throwing people on the screen. And, and then Marty, I think he had to go to the restroom. I don't know what happened to him.
I think he went to grab another libation.
Oh, that's what he went to do.
That's what he did last time. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely right. So, since he's gone, I kind of want to talk about someone, a mutual acquaintance of ours, and maybe you'll remember this guy here. Has he been haunting you lately?
No, I don't think so. Every now and then something pops up, but I don't think so. I it's so out of my scope and breadth of existence. I actually kind of forgot about him. Is he still around?
Well, that's the funny thing. That's why I was asking if he was still bugging you, because I get people who will write me and say, Rob, you know who this Sal guy is? Do you know why he's tormenting me? And I say, well, did you say anything bad against queer people or sex offenders or anyone who's woke? Did you have a politically incorrect moment? And of course they'll say,
right.
Well, yeah. And all of a sudden this guy started attacking me, and he brings out his 10 different aliases and just, how it is.
I have about 20 saved in my computer. There's tons. I mean, I couldn't imagine having that kind of time to sit in front of the computer making fake, but it's probably easier to go to some of those sites that Chris Hansen on Dateline used to go after. I'm just saying, we were talking earlier about gay people or whatever. I don't know what name they want to go by anymore. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't factor into my life. I don't hate them. But it's when it goes from being a lifestyle to an agenda, that's where it becomes an issue. And that's your lifestyle. I honestly don't care. I'm at an age and stage of my life. I don't care. But when it becomes an agenda, now that's something different.
And
there'll be a couple of people saying he's a freak. Oh yeah, he's a total freak show. He's an absolute deviant freak show. Going back,
he's been blocked twice, and then he says, "Damn beers." He's Conspiratard is obviously keeping up with Marty with the drinking, and so I love it. I love it. And,
I'm doing Deschutes Fresh Squeeze now, which is actually one of my favorite India Pale Ales. It's really light. It's got a lot of hops and a slight taste of citrus.
So interesting. I don't know if you know this or not, but IPA does not stand for India Pale Ale. It stands for intense piss aroma, because my cat litter box smells better than any IPA has ever tasted.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was because I like him so much. I drink so much that I pee all the time. IPA. So that's clever. I like it.
No, I agree with you. That piss smell that comes from certain beers. Yeah, I don't know. I used to like beer, and you're out working really hard, and especially in the Southwest, you're dealing with 110-degree weather. Yeah. And you've been working out there. There's nothing better than a really nice cold beer. A Bud from the bottle is what I used to always drink.
Electrolytes. It's like Brondo. It's what the body craves. Brondo.
Yeah.
And it has and when it's 110 degrees outside and you don't feel the beer, it's just a part of life. And when you're grilling, story where you grill back home, you're in the desert, and you always have to have a beer in your hand. It's typically a Coors Light. It's like a smash here. You got your little barbecue fork, whatever you're doing it. And we had to do a function like for kids at the church. We had to like grill burgers and stuff for it. We're getting all the stuff set up. And somebody goes, "Look, I don't think we can drink beer." And it's like, we couldn't figure out how to barbecue without having beer because it's never been done. It has never been done in the South.
It
cannot
be done.
You can do it, but it doesn't turn out right.
No,
Right.
right.
Yeah, totally. And that's when I used to like beer. Here, it doesn't ever get hot enough to where I get that craving anymore like I used to. But yeah, I used to drink a lot of beer, and it was always
mowing the lawn in Iowa was like 95 degrees and 90% humidity. And I wouldn't actually drink beers. I would drink shandies, which would be cheap beer and lemonade, or cheap beer and and it'd be like, because if you just drink beer, at some point you're going to get dehydrated from drinking beer. So you're like going, okay, I need to cut this with something that's actually going to hydrate me. And trust me on this one, beer and Gatorade do not mix. Oh my God. Oh, the taste is horrible.
So, Doug, you're from tornado country. I'm from tornado country.
Nope, not tornado country. Very few tornadoes in my part of the world. Very few. Only one in recorded history for my part of the South in West Texas.
Really?
Yeah, my little particular area rarely have tornadoes. You know, a couple hours north, 3-4 hours north, definitely more, but like just a very little protected area where tornadoes are not a thing.
So I lived in Wichita Falls for like 3 years when I was a kid.
Isn't that where they have the tornado center? I mean,
that town was destroyed by a tornado when I was a kid. I mean, it was like a dream come true. The schools were just leveled. I mean, completely leveled. They were all taken out, and the kids were like, "All right, we get to beat up our houses. This is really cool." And so, the tornadoes through Wichita Falls, we always called it, if the tornadoes hit Wichita Falls, they made a strike on Tornado Alley. And that was usually the hot spot for it. And I don't know, I spent most of the summers at least 2 or 3 times getting into the bathtub from the bathroom. You know how they'd put the mattress over you and you'd all get into the bathtub. And you know what the funny thing is we had moved before this tornado hit. We didn't move far away, and we came through to visit relatives to help clean up the area. And the house that we used to live in, the only thing remaining were the 4 walls to the bathroom. It was like the tornado went completely around the house. So we used to call my mother crazy because we'd get stuck in this damn bathtub every time the sirens would go off. And here it is. We found out she wasn't so crazy, that after all, that is where you're supposed to go, in the bathtub, and open up all the windows or some section of the house windows. And yeah, it was crazy. I thought that you had more tornadoes in West Texas. That's weird.
No, and parts, but like our little area is like one ever.
Yeah, I find that really surprising, because you normally think of Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri and Iowa being like, I graduated high school in Bandon back in the 70s, but I was born in Northeast Iowa, about 30 miles from Minnesota and about 30 miles from Wisconsin there. And sure, you betcha, we had a lot of Swedes and Norskies, and eventually I kind of got rid of my accent because, I learned how to get into radio and learn how to like talk like Ted Brokaw or something. But yeah, sure. But yeah, I mean, it was like every summer there would be some town within a 30-mile radius that would just get completely obliterated by tornadoes. And it would be, the sirens would go off, and it's like, the weather alert. This is the National Weather Service. There's a tornado imminent in your area. If you're living in Fayette County, Iowa, you're screwed. Hit the basement now.
Yep. And I'm always amazed moving to Oregon, like we were talking about the rain and the storms and stuff, but nothing is like a tornado coming through the neighborhoods. And I don't know why God hates mobile homes. God really hates mobile homes. I don't know what it is, but it's like every time the first they start off with the news, and this is a mobile home park right here, has just been destroyed. And I mean, they just
Maybe it's just fun. Maybe it's fun. I don't know.
Well,
you're a kid, you can smash things.
The honest reason would be because the construction of mobile homes is not quite as sturdy as, say, maybe a brick house, But yeah, I mean, mobile homes are basically made out of the same kind of stuff that travel trailers are. They're really light. They're really easy to move, yeah, because they're mobile homes, but they're also easy to destroy. I mean, you run into one of those with a VW Bug, and you're gonna basically total the joint.
Well,
So
that's why you put the rubber tires on top. That's why you got the rubber tires on your
that's
roof.
why you need the blue tarp.
Right,
blue
and the
tarp.
blue tarp with the rubber
Yeah.
tires. It's not that we're white hicks. It's the fact that we're trying to save ourselves from
maybe it is
God.
because I'm a white hick, but yeah, I mean,
Just how it's done.
I used to be so poor. I was like, "Oh, I hope I get to move up to a single wide." But okay,
I was in the shed. So look at what I have this up here, and I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the hurricane that just hit Florida, North Carolina.
The calm before the storm. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and this is the feds who say there's no money left for hurricanes after it spent $1.4 billion on immigrants. And what the hell? What is happening to this country? Isn't that what the government is for, to protect the citizens or help the citizens once a disaster has hit,
I remember when Katrina happened, and I mean 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes after the hurricane stopped, they were bagging on Bush for, oh my God, he doesn't care about the fact that the hurricane hit New Orleans, and look at all these poor people that are, being put out of their homes and flooded out. And here it's like, so here we are in Asheville, North Carolina, which is 200 miles inland and 1,200 feet above sea level. And we have had complete towns wiped out. We've had interstate highways wiped out. We've had places that have had, and we're not talking 100-year floods. We're talking Noah-like floods. And, and it's like, oh, no, I'm sorry, FEMA's out of money. Oh, by the way, we just gave $9 billion to Ukraine. We just gave
Thank you. That's where we're going to go.
$7 billion to Iran and $536 million to Taiwan this week. So we don't have any money for you, Americans. Go suck it. And I'm like, and this is in an election cycle. I mean, you would think in an election cycle, if they actually thought that the elections were going to be run above board, they would actually have to, consider what their people that might be voting for them might think. And therefore, they'd be pumping every money and, all money and every resource they could into saving these people. But I've been reading up too much about like National Guard people that are in the area that have not been deployed to this disaster, but are now being alerted that they're going to be sent to the Middle East. And I'm like going, don't you think you ought to fix the problem in North Carolina and Georgia first? But I mean, they're just basically rubbing it in our faces that it's like, yeah, you know what? We don't work for you. And I don't think you can vote us out. So yeah,
what country is it? What country is it that keeps sending us money to help with things? What country is that again?
I don't know of one.
Yeah,
there isn't one.
Yeah, there is.
There's I mean, last I checked, I think maybe Bhutan sent us a nickel. But other than that, no, there hasn't been any country in the world ever that has said, oh my God, look at all those poor people getting flooded out. We got to send them some aid.
Good point.
We are the world's piggy bank. We are the world's piggy bank. Nunya Business on there had mentioned that, the federal government's main task is to protect the nation from foreign invaders. And that's it. The federal government's tasked with very few things. It's just taken on all these roles, and we've allowed it to happen. If you let the citizens have more autonomy and do more and keep more of their money and do all those sorts of things, these types of disasters wouldn't be as big of a disaster. They'd have those coffers, they'd have that money on the state level to look after themselves instead of having to put their hands out like, hey, we have a disaster, federal government, what can you give us? And like you said, oh no, sorry, we've already given billions to illegals. We sent billions to the Ukraine. That is a great cartoon.
Nice cartoon.
Does nobody remember that the Ukraine has been like the money laundering thing for the left for decades? Like, what? Does nobody remember this? Like, I don't understand. Like, you're still sending them billions. Okay, and then people are like, well, it's not cash; it's an aid. Well, some of it's cash, I promise you. But even the aid, So you send missiles over. Well, you don't think some of those are getting funneled and channeled to other countries around the world for fat cash, for
Well,
hundreds of millions of dollars? Like,
they
that's how
have
it works.
lost a huge percentage of the missiles and arms that they have
Yeah.
sent to the Ukraine. Huge percentage.
$80 billion of American military equipment, top flight, the best military equipment in the world. $80 billion of that was left behind in Afghanistan. Where do you think all that equipment went? All the billions of dollars that are going through the Ukraine. Ukraine is money laundering, arms trading, weapons trading, sex trafficking, people trafficking.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, it's like the Kmart of illicit operations for the world. And it's like, so we sent him $1 billion. Well, hey, some of that is, all our kids are on Burisma. I mean, Hunter Biden, Chris Hines, who is, the son of, but I mean, the laundry list goes on. And the whole point is that how is it that nobody can figure out that, all that money we sent to the Ukraine, all that money we sent to Iran, how much of that went into the missiles that just went into Israel this week?
Yep.
I mean, and plus the fact that we gave a lot of money to Israel so that they could have a missile defense system called the Iron Dome.
I don't understand why we haven't flattened Iran. I don't understand why we haven't flattened Iran. And every time there's a Democratic president in, they get all kinds of cool stuff. Do you remember under Obama when there was a bunch of, there was one main drone, one of our main, I don't know, it was a Predator drone or what it was, that the Iranians hacked into as it flew over, safely landed, and then reverse engineered the technology. No, that was given to them as a gift by the administration, in my opinion. That was given to them as a gift.
And they gave
you don't just hack into a drone. And then they took one of our naval vessels and then posted pictures of I'm not even convinced it was our guys, on the deck of this little naval ship, this little Turtle Zone ship, where they're on the deck and they're like crying and sobbing. And I don't think those were our guys. But every time there's a left-leaning president, Iran just gets all these gifts and all this cool stuff at our expense, and I don't understand what's the payback, what's the catch, what is it?
Well, because
with Trump, sorry, go ahead.
Because they are the ruling elite and they don't have to listen to you, and now they're kind of just rubbing it in our faces, going, the 8 years of Obama. I mean, first off, we have a lot of issues with Obama, but let's not go back that far. But the whole problem is he didn't like America. He wasn't working for America. He was not working for Americans. He was working for the people that put him in power, who basically said, we are going to destroy America and we're going to turn the world into our fiefdom. We are going to be the ruling elite. And if you play along, you'll get like a house in Martha's Vineyard. You'll get a $2 million mansion in Washington, D.C. You'll get a $12 million mansion in Hawaii. Come on, Obama, let's play
on $140,000 a year salary, $140K a year, or whatever the president gets. Maybe it's up a little more than that now. And also, you have all these.
The president gets The president gets $400,000 a year. He gets $100,000 every quarter, which every single quarter of the Trump presidency, he donated it to some trip.
That's true. He did donate his salary, and I don't know too many presidents who can say that.
Nobody talks about that.
So
his net worth went down.
His net worth went down. Yeah, I know. He lost so much business because so many people trying to cancel him and whatnot. And then he has to pay all those lawyers for the 30 different lawsuits that he's now defending himself with. And it starts racking up the bills when you're paying lawyers. That's some expensive crap.
Oh boy. Oh man, I've lost so much money on lawyers.
Yes, so much money.
I'd rather just take the losses I had as opposed to, spending all this money on lawyers. And I was like, I won my case, and they're going, yeah, you won the case, but unfortunately, the company, the people and the companies you sued are now bankrupt, and you're never going to get a dime out of it. So
you're never going to get a dime.
The only people that made money on that thing was the lawyers on either side, and I'm like,
been there, done that one. Yeah, I mean, you paid them so much money.
But I was doing it because I thought, it was a Pyrrhic victory. I actually won, but I never got any of my money back.
Right. Right.
That's $250,000 down the hole that I'll never see again. Yippee.
Yeah, I've had different experiences with those court cases, and
Yeah.
it seems like the lawyer, no matter what happens, the lawyer always wins. He's the winner in the room, and I just watched two people fight it out over a restraining order, and it must have cost both of them together, I would imagine, anywhere between $60,000 to $100,000 to have this personal feud fought out inside the courtroom. When it just blows me away how much money that was spent on a lawyer to defend this case, because I know how much they make. It's
been there, done that. Ain't gonna do that again. But at the same time, I have to say that I've also done the same thing. You say, oh, lawyers make a lot of money. Well, I figured out exactly how to make money in the stock market, and it's foolproof. I made money in the stock market for 7 years, nonstop. How did I do that? Well, I used to run a stock market trading system called Posit. So I was the one trading the stocks. Didn't matter if the stock market was going up or if it was, let's get to the camera. Was it going up? Was it going down? Up or down, doesn't matter. I was getting paid per trade. So we had all these trading desks, and I was connected to the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, Toronto Stock Exchange. And I was making all these trades for all these people at the company I worked for. And I was running this institutional trading system, and it was like, well, we're always making money. I mean, it's like,
I was going to say that stockbrokers and lawyers. Yeah.
Stockbrokers and lawyers. And I'm like going, if you want to say lawyers, they're a bunch of scumbags. Well, I used to be a scumbag as well. Oh, and by the way, to add to my scumbagicity or scumbag level, I actually kind of like scumbagicity because you started the show with a word you made up. So I'm like, oh, let's go with words we can make up. Yes. To add to my level of scumbagicity, I actually used to work for ABC TV in the news department. So, but that was back in the 80s when we actually
that was in the 80s, a long time ago.
That was in the 80s when we actually did journalism, but it's like, corporate media sucks ass. And I'm like, yeah, you know what they do. And I have proof because I worked in it before it did. And now I know what it is now. And now it's just people that look really good that can read prompters. In today's news,
and espouse their opinions.
I feel so bad.
I don't know if you guys saw this story. It was one of those other really infuriating stories. And I know Rod loves. I know that Doug loves to hear about these transgender stories and how poor transgenders are being oppressed. I'm sorry, what, Marty?
Oh, I was going to say, should I change my name to Rob as well? And then we could just have the Rob and Rob
it'll
show?
just be easier that way. Well, that's how we got Doug Washington, so don't change your name to Rod or Rob.
Rob and Bandon. Oh, no, wait, I can't do Rob and Bandon because you're Rob and Bandon. Okay.
Yeah.
Rob and Langlois. And then
there you go.
It's not Langlois, it's Langlouis. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to start this argument again? Okay.
Absolutely. But I know how much you enjoy those type of stories. And let me see if I get the story up here. Where did it go? You're going to love this one. This is a guy who is in prison, and he's someone who killed his baby, strangled his baby. And now the judge orders taxpayers to foot the gender surgery bill for a savage baby killer who identifies as a Muslim. Get this, a Muslim woman. Look at this guy up here. I'm going to put him on screen here. This is the guy right here. They featured him on Gutfeld.
Well, and here's the weird thing.
I can fix all of that.
Yes.
Yeah, here's the weird thing. Like most Muslim women are supposed to wear hijabs, which is like full clothing that covers not only their head and their face and their body, so you can't see them. And I'm like, in this case, I'm fully for that. I'm like, oh my God, I do not want to see that again.
I have a cure for this problem. If he needs those tattoos removed, I can do it with a cheese grater. I don't know.
I was going with the chipper.
great
I was
home
going with the
system.
chipper shredder myself, but yeah, cheese grater is fine as well.
Yeah, yeah. I like to do it the old-fashioned way and use my hands and get a little dirty with this. But
the master craftsman. Sure.
I saw this on Gutfeld, and I got the update on this. I'm the only one carrying the update on this, but he's now in the prison drama club, and you're going to love this. He's changed his whole thing, and he's got a whole great act here. You're going to love this.
It takes a man like me to be a woman like me. Yeah!
So there you go. He's actually moved on to
What
his
is
whole
the
gender.
fascination with that? I don't get the fascination with that. Now, look at this thing right here. Look how it's left eye. Like, all right, it's left. It's tracking straight. And the right eye is totally off the side. It's a chameleon.
Yep. And the ACLU sued the city, the prison, and sued them for I don't know how much money that they got from this, but they won the award. The state's going to appeal it because they don't want to pay for the transition for this guy, because as soon as he gets the operation, then he's going to want to be transferred to the women's prison. And I don't know. I think we should give him the operation, but we should just pay some of the prisoners to do the operation and just leave them in general population. That's just my idea.
My first question is what prison is this person in? I mean, I know people that are in prison that I talk to on a regular basis, and this kind of stuff wouldn't last very long.
Right.
Well, you would like to think it doesn't, but it seems to. It says here, a federal judge has ruled that it would be unconstitutional for an Indiana prison to deny a transgender inmate sex reassignment surgery following the inmate's lawsuit against the facility. The ACLU sued the Indiana Department of Corrections last year on behalf of a transgender inmate, Jonathan C. Richardson, also known as Autumn Cordeleone, who was convinced of strangling
that has
his
got to be the worst
11-month-old
stripper
stepdaughter.
name ever. I mean,
Yeah,
that's got to be the worst stripper name ever. But then again, with that face, I'm like going, yeah, if I'm going to a strip club at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, I'm expecting to see women that have recent gunshot wounds that have just been sewn up and probably look like that. So there you go. August Corleone. Worst stripper name ever.
Autumn. Her name is Autumn. Get it right. You got to get
survival of the fittest, right? In nature, that thing would cease to exist.
And I'm sure the ACLU is going to sue me for pronouncing the name wrong. So there we go.
So I was expecting to get kicked off of YouTube because I did a show a couple of weeks ago where I showed how back in the day, going back to the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, that Hollywood stereotyped a lot of these villains as transgender confused people who had mental illnesses. This is when Hollywood still portrayed them the way some of them really are. Most of them, a good portion, because you have to be mentally ill to want to mutilate your own body. And so then I showed how some of these people are now in government, and I gave the example of that weirdo who was part of cleaning up nuclear waste, who was stealing all the clothing. And then we have the lady who's an admiral, who's really a man, but she looks like the Quaker Oats guy. You know who I'm talking about. So I showed
and isn't she like the head of health and human services?
She's in charge of health, and she wants to mutilate children. Yes.
And I'm like going, so what says like good health and good human services and good mental health, like somebody who's an overweight man who thinks she's a woman that has really bad hair and bad makeup, and I'm like on,
But here's where I took this though.
Maybe my insanity is not that bad.
Maybe not. I guess not. But I did take this to the next level, and this is what I thought would get me kicked off, is I showed several of the last school shooters, 3 of them, and this was just 3 out of several. Ooh, that looks
cookies.
Good. And they were all transgender people, and I put their faces on the screen, showing that maybe it's not the gun, maybe it's the fact that these people are mentally ill, and maybe we should be watching them a little bit closer than we are instead of letting them do story time in the library with our kids. I don't know. Maybe I'm pushing it there.
And here's the thing, that every single one of the shooters recently has been on the FBI watch list. And I'm like going,
They were on our list. We had our eye on them,
yeah, we had our
but we
eye on
couldn't go
them.
up the slope roof.
Yeah, they were on the list, don't you know? And
Wild.
I'm surprised the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter wasn't transgender, but I guess they shot him too soon. So,
That's
you know,
true. Yes, they shot him
and
too soon, and we don't know. Yeah.
and the
We don't
guy
know.
the guy that wanted to shoot at Trump in Georgia, his son was just busted for a bunch of sex child trafficking things as well. And I'm like,
Wild. Isn't
yeah,
that
you know what?
wild?
It's like,
Like all this stuff comes together. Like it's all there's commonality, there's threads, there's patterns that are completely easily perceivable if you don't allow your mind to be clouded by all the nonsense that's thrown at us
Yep.
continuously. If you have a free and open mind, you will see these things. But if
oh
you keep
yeah.
it closed and you follow the status quo, you will never see the truth and the reality. It's
And
it's frightening.
So when you go out and you're out hunting, I don't know how much you hunt, but you do fishing. You do a lot of fishing.
Yeah.
What do you do with your cell phones? Do you guys take your cell phones, or do you have like one of those no cell phones on a trip kind of deal? What's the deal
I,
with cell phones?
I was at my cell phone because I'm always taking pictures and content and stuff like that. And we have GPS transponders as well. So those are tethered to our phones so that if we have issues or something, we can pull it out and then we can send a text message to anywhere in the world with no cell service.
Totally get it. Totally get it. It's just
Yeah.
me and Marty here, when we did the campaign in the primary, we went to our candidate's residence up in Riddle, not Riddle. Was it
Yeah,
Riddle?
it was out in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, shall we say?
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, where you could get no service, and that's exactly what we did. We were loving life. We didn't have any idea what the election results were, and we didn't care. We
Yeah,
had
well,
booze, and we were fine.
he actually had
We don't have cell service when we're out there.
Yeah,
We have
actually
no
had
cell service.
wired,
I'm sorry, Chris.
yeah, he actually had wired internet service at his house, but he wouldn't set up a wireless hub because he wanted everybody that was staying there to not have that. I did a 3-day rafting trip down the road. There was no electricity. There was no cell service. And I was like going, oh, that is so good to just be completely disconnected for 3 days. But yeah, when we're out fishing, I mean, yeah, I take pictures, but I normally have my cell phone turned off because I'm like, hey, I'm busy fishing. Don't bug me.
Don't
Yeah,
bug
I
me.
don't.
And with us,
I don't
with the
take.
young kids and stuff too, it's just good to have that communication. Something happens, something goes wrong.
Yeah.
When we were out, we did a bluefin tuna trip. We were out in international waters off the coast of Mexico, and we had no cell service. Like we just no.
Yeah.
And that's when Trump got shot, and we got some radio chatter that something had happened. So I fired up the satellite communicator and started, texting people and asking what was going on and getting some real time information on what was happening. We live in such a wired age. But often when we're in the woods, we don't have cell service. Again, we have our electronic devices. We'll download movies and watch it when we're out, at night, stuff around the fire. We'll set it up on a log. It's fun. It's like movie night out in the woods. But a lot of our lifestyle precludes us from having cell service. We're often out in places without cell service.
Gosh, I wish I could have that lifestyle. I guess I need to change my lifestyle because I'm nonstop on the phone, on the computer, because I'm digging up this story, I'm digging up that story. You know what I mean? It's like
Run to the woods.
Yeah, weren't you gonna?
Seriously.
Weren't you gonna go to the Todd Von?
I was. I probably should, but I kind of missed the season. I don't know. I'd hate to go out there now. Shit, there would be a snowstorm.
No, I don't think it would be that bad. I mean, the fishing would probably be good, and you see a lot of deciduous cheese. Yeah, a lot of deciduous cheese changing colors because if you leave the cheese out too long, it's going to change colors. But
cheese does that.
But no, I mean, because I really liked that whole compound that he had with all the little cabins and some of the buildings he built were so meticulously done. I was just like, you think, oh, we're way out in the middle of nowhere, and we were. It was like you get into the place, and it's like a 5-star luxury joint. Great kitchens, great. Every accommodation was top rate. And this was like places that he kind of like, did a B&B thing with in his spare time.
Yeah, it was beautiful out there.
Very
It was
cool.
beautiful. Yeah. So before I get you guys out here, Marty, is there anything else you want to say and tell the audience, the listeners, before we go?
Well, of course, if you're of the mind, you might want to get on the Trump train tomorrow because it's taking off tomorrow at 9 o'clock, or is it 9:30? There you go.
It's 9 o'clock. We're meeting. We're meeting on Front Street, right in front of South Brothers, right next to that big log where where the boardwalk ends and then Front Road starts. We're meeting on Front Street in front of the South Brothers. We'll probably have to have the lead car all the way up by Chevron because I'm expecting about 30 vehicles in this thing. And we'll leave at 9:30. And I recommend everyone go to the bathroom and fill up your vehicle before you get there. There is a bathroom at the meeting spot, but we're going straight through to Brookings. And I've already had several women tell me, Rob, we need bathroom stops. And I'm like, you can't sit in the car for 2 hours. I mean, come on, it's only 2 hours and 5 minutes. That's all we got to do. We got to go straight there because I don't think they understand the complication of doing a stop. And the only stop that I know between Coos Bay and Brookings is the viewpoint at Port Orford. And I could only imagine how hard it would be to get into that parking lot that's usually 2/3 full on the weekend and turn that around. It just seems very complicated.
I'm thinking people could drop in and drop out. I mean, you basically every stoplight, there's going to be a couple of stoplights in Bandon. There's going to be a couple of stoplights in Gold Beach. So people could drop in and drop out and hit convenient marts and whatnot. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to be in this thing because I've got some other things I need to get done. But when you tell me you're in Bandon, I will definitely be standing out on the roadside on 101 in my neighborhood, which is halfway between Bandon and Langlois, waving signs and egging you on, because it's just like, this is something that I think if more people knew about it, you would have a much bigger entourage of people following you.
Well, Marty, I'm afraid
Yeah,
I'm
these women
afraid
have a
100
large
people are
prostate.
going to show up. That's
actually
my
think-
fear. We had 110 people show up to the last Trump train where I thought I'd only get 30 cars. And the whole train was about a mile, I would say about a quarter mile long, maybe a little bit longer. It was huge. And we went to Winchester, which is an hour away, and we went on the beach there and we had a few speakers. I don't want to go on the beach and I don't want to have speakers. And I certainly didn't want to have an event, because if you have an event, you got to rent the space, you got to get the insurance, you got to get a speaker in here, and it adds immensely to the cost. So I said, let's just take a ride. We'll go down to Brookings. We'll meet people. We're going to, at noon, and this is what people got to understand. At noon, we're meeting another Trump train in Brookings.
Yeah.
And we should be there about 11:35, 11:40, if all goes well. And so we will have about 40 minutes for people to use the restroom, maybe get something to eat real quick. I'd recommend getting a bag lunch, but people can use the restroom there. So you'll get a bathroom break when we leave if you want to take, go before you leave. And then we'll have a bathroom break in Brookings. I know I've driven halfway to Texas from here without taking bathroom breaks. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but it was funny because none of your business. He says, well, these women have enlarged prostates.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing about earlier. I was like going, yeah, the transgender Trump supporters, the transgender Trump
I think it's the Drew Farmer campaign.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Drew Farmer can't make it because his prostate won't let him. And neither will his transgender girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. But
Are we sure about that, or is that just anybody know?
I have no idea.
That's
Someone
a
just
pretty
put that
harsh
up
one to throw out.
But I do know that he, from what I heard, is that he got a divorce from his wife, and now he's living with his bi or gay lover. I don't know if that lover is transgender or not.
That's the nastiness of politics, because everything about you is going to get brought up, and that's part of the price you have to pay.
Yeah,
that's part of the price you have to pay if you choose that lifestyle.
And oddly enough, that lifestyle, I mean, I don't actually, what 2 or more consenting adults do with their spare time, I don't care, so long as you're not saying, I have to do it too. I mean,
but he wants to impose it on us. He wants to put a pride flag on every damn pole in the county.
Yeah, it's like when everybody was like going, well, yeah, when people are arguing about, well, David Brock Smith isn't in bed with China, and like Danessa and Danessa's father are doing business with China. I'm like, well, Danessa and Danessa's father are not my representatives.
Yep.
I have somebody that I'm voting for that's supposed to be representing me that's giving me issues. I don't give a rat's patootie what Danessa or Danessa's dad are doing. And by the way, that was all lies anyway. But the whole point is that, I hold a higher standard to people that I elect than I do like anybody else that I meet in the world. Because I'm like, I have a lot of friends. A lot of my friends are kind of weird and kinky because I used to be a sound man and a DJ.
Weird and kinky.
Yeah, I used to work in a lot of weird places.
We know the truth now, there, Marty.
Well, and I used to work for the Playboy Club at one point, so it just gets weird. But,
oh my gosh! So you've worked for what is it, ABC News, and you've worked for the Playboy Club.
Yeah, and
you sound like a special on one of those cable televisions where you got the Marty show, Marty at the Playboy House, Marty at CBS. I would watch that. I want to know. You got this weird lifestyle.
Yeah, and I worked. I worked for, like I said, I worked for ABC TV. I worked in radio. I owned a radio station for a while. I worked at the Playboy Club. I worked for Major League Baseball for 2 years. If you ever watch a Major League Baseball game where they have that thing where it shows you where the pitch goes across the plate called pitch tracks, somebody has to run those computers. I was that guy.
So I got to know, Marty, were you at the P. Diddy parties? You got to come clean.
No,
we know there's video, but you could tell us.
I was not funky and or weird enough for any of that, unfortunately. I was the guy that would go in and set up the sound for the P. Diddy parties, and they're like going, no, but you can't come to the party.
No baby lotion for you.
Yeah, no extra lube for you or baby lotion. Thanks for setting up the sound system. Now go away, because you're just not that cool. And I'm like, I'm fine with that because I have hamsters as pet, not as suppositories. So
Well, we got a couple of comments. Conspiratard says that he literally comes talking about Drew Farmer. He literally comes in with his lover, maybe trans, maybe in drag. And let's see. None of your business says, I don't care either, but I think it's sick. I agree. It's a little sick, but to each his own. And then Conspiracod says, it's a man that is dressed like a woman. And it's all in capital. I love that. Like,
it's a man. It's a man, baby.
Yeah, Austin Powers, one of the greatest voices of our time.
Now here's the crux of the situation.
Yeah.
None of your business says people in positions of trust should not be deviants. And I think that kind of leads to, I don't care what you do behind closed doors, but if you're a deviant and you're doing some weird, freaky stuff that most of society probably doesn't do, except for Marty, then maybe you got
maybe you got some issues.
Well, people that fit that characterization that had those proclivities were not capable of getting security clearance until really not that relatively long ago, because those types of things could be held against them. Those types of things could be a foreign entity or just an enemy in general could say, hey, we got the dirt on you now. We're going to go public with it. We're going to undermine you unless you do what we want. So that was like a stopgap measure to keep those people from being undermined. So they weren't allowed to have those positions. And now, like, I don't even know what security clearance involves anymore.
Well, pretty much
that have gotten in.
Pretty much everybody in Hollywood and in the administration and anybody high in power has been compromised. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein is not dead, and he was a Mossad agent, and he was basically put in to get the dirt on everyone and find all their picadillos. And it's like I said, consenting adults, I got no problem with. But if you start if you start having sexual relations with children and unconsenting people, then I got big problems with that. And the whole thing is I hold my elected officials to higher standards because they are making policy for everyone. And if they're easily turned by, a cute gal or a cute guy or a 12-year-old girl or a 12-year-old guy, I'm like going, you're not in the position to make a really good decision about things that are going to affect everything I have going on in my life. You are not in that position. So
that was
please
my
don't do
point.
that.
That was my point with the Hunter Biden laptop. I think that once that was found and we saw what was being shown, you got to imagine what wasn't shown, what wasn't caught on camera, because he put everything on camera. Can you imagine what he was doing that he said, oh no, even this is too disgusting for anyone to bring a camera in and take a picture of, because it's just, you know what I mean?
And
What
I have
censored me and shut down part of my operation because I was posting stuff about that laptop. And now it's coming out. They're like, oh, our bad. It's okay. Like that. And that's the problem with censorship. It's who controls it. And now it's come out all this stuff I was getting banned for and having issues with social media for the past several years. All those conspiracy theories have now played out and parlayed into truth and real news stories and stuff. And nobody apologizes. Nobody's accountable for it.
Of course not.
Yeah, we shut them down for a month. No big deal.
Yeah.
No big
No,
deal.
I mean,
oh, he was right. Okay.
Yeah, I got kicked off of Twitter. I mean, back when it was called Twitter, I got kicked off of Twitter for quoting 28 USC 2381, which basically is the code for treason. I said anyone that acts against the country is treasonous, blah blah blah. And the statute of limitations for treason is not. There is none, and the penalty could be death. And Twitter basically said, well, that's hate speech. And I'm like, hold on, I'm quoting U.S. code and you're saying it's hate speech? And they wouldn't reinstate me and they kicked me off. And then Elon took it over and maybe it's gotten a little bit better. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it's a horrible sinkhole of time waste, like Facebook, like arguing with either bots or paid people that are bots, idiots, or paid tards. Either way, it's like a big waste of time. There are other ways to get information from people and give information to people, and this is one of them. And so it's just, I don't have to prove myself to some Facebook. It's like there's a Facebook site called Banned and something or something, and
I bet Doug has done this before, because I know I've done it, and you may have done it too, Marty. Have you ever argued with someone and you get a good back and forth going and it kind of gets under your skin and you're arguing with someone, and then you go look at their profile and it's someone who's looks like a freak who you wouldn't even care what their opinion was because they're such losers or such derelicts, and you're like, why am I arguing with this guy? Have you ever done that, Doug?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one going on right now. Well, let's talk about it in another show. But it's good because he's giving me tons of content. Every time he does something stupid, it generates revenue. So it's kind of good, but it's just a mealy mouth, mildly retarded, morbidly obese idiot.
Yeah.
And it's somebody that I know personally, so it makes it that much more extra special. And it's turned into this whole online. It's taken on a life of its own, and it's kind of actually had fun. So that's one where like I'm still playing with it, like a cat with a mouse,
Oh, yeah,
a lot
exactly.
of those ones. Like I was getting haters last month I got my first hater from Ireland, from all over Europe.
Oh,
I was pretty excited. I went full blown international. A lot of it had to do with the Secret Service and the DEI stuff, because there was a bunch of good memes, and I was making cool memes with like the Secret Service agents, the women that should be in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant, instead of actually protecting the president and stating as much. So it just infuriated all the cuck males and the butch female. Yeah, so they were just hating from all over.
God, I'm glad you're out there. I am so glad you're out there. It gives me hope. I mean, I'm glad there are people out there who are doing that. And I watch some of this stuff that you do, and it's just funny how people will reply when you're having that type of back and forth, like, oh, you're so mean, you're just being so cruel. And it's like, and the other guy? And the other guy, he's not being mean and cruel. He's not, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't understand why they don't see that difference when I see those back and forths.
Oh, and I really love it. I really love it when, like, I will light a fire and I know I'm going to get somebody that's going to like go ahead and go ballistic on something. And then I'll just keep prodding them. and then it'll be like, and I just walk away, and I'm just like, well, my job is done here. I've really pissed off somebody that is just a complete idiot, and now I've got them churning and coming up with hundreds of more facts to like try to refute the things that I have really decent information that's rock solid, cement good facts. And I'm like going, but wait. You said this, and let me show you the statistics about why you're absolutely wrong. And then they go off on a tangent, and then they go off on like straw man arguments or other arguments that are against like logical, a whole bunch of logical fallacies. And I'm like going, so let me give you an introduction on how logical fallacies work. and then I get like 18 people that are on that thread going, way to take them out. And then they still keep blubbering. I'm like, yeah, I always love it when snowflakes melt.
Right.
You're a better man than I am, because long before I get to that point, I usually bring their mom into the conversation.
I
goes one of two ways real fast.
Yeah.
I get a lot of these flat earthers who are actually conservatives, and I agree with them on everything. It's like the guy with the Bigfoot. I normally agree with him everything, and then he gets to the Bigfoot, and you're like, you start questioning your own values because you're like, but Bigfoot don't exist. Well, it's like the flat earthers. I mean, I was talking to this guy and he made so much sense and he was making great, progress with going into this conversation. And then I brought up the earth. I don't know how he got into it, and he find out he's a flat earther. Oh, well, prove to me the earth's not flat. Well, prove to me that the earth even exists. I mean, you know what I mean?
Prove to me that the earth is flat. I mean, it's like, okay, the Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and his ships were the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, and the one that sailed over the edge. I mean,
there were two of them. The Sangria and the Margarita both went over the edge.
Oh, yeah, there we
went
go.
over the edge.
Yeah, drunk captains. And hey, I told you not to get too close to the edge. It's
So, yeah, I get into those conversations. So, Doug, tell me,
and I'm back.
what you guys, before I get you out of here, and I said that about 20 minutes ago now, I know, but I'm going to give you your shot. What would you like to tell the listeners, and let them know what you're doing these days and where they can get a hold of you?
You can find us on our main platform is Base and Tackle Online on Facebook, and then there's also BTR Unfiltered. Also on Facebook. I haven't been doing much on there lately. We're growing our YouTube channel, Base and Tackle channel. We're still on the radio, and we do podcasts. You can just go to, you just Google Base and Tackle podcast, and you can find us on Spotify, Amazon Prime, stuff like that. It's all free. You get a couple ads in it, but it's all free. But what I'd like to say to folks is, don't give up on what you know is right and who you are. It's easy to give in to mob mentality. Some of us are just wired not to. If I get pushed one direction, I'm wired to automatically repel back the other direction, but not everybody is. Ultimately, you know who you are. You know what this nation stands for. You know the goodness and decency that this place we call home represents. Don't ever give up on it, no matter how ugly it gets, no matter what happens. Don't ever give up on it. Just be the best American you can be. And this guy's chiming in here says, I am Bigfoot. That timing is perfect.
That is beautiful. I love it. We're all Bigfoot metaphorically, man. I'm Bigfoot. You're Bigfoot.
I am Bigfoot. I am Bigfoot.
Oh, that was a good one. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me. We'll have to do this again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. We do.
Doug and Rob. I mean, Doug/Rob. So is Base and Tackle BASIN?
Basin. BASIN. Basin Tackle.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because having done a lot of stuff where people can misinterpret how to figure out what it means. It's like it could be bass and tackle, which means I'm a DJ. I got bass,
right,
and tackle. Woo.
And we also live in a day and age where women named Brittany end their name with an I. So you just don't know what anything means anymore.
Yeah,
it's spelling.
Right.
Brittany with an I? Like, yeah, all Brittany has an I. No, I got the end. Okay, we're done.
So the
It's
two
got an
follow-up,
I with a curve that goes around to the first letter again. It's
and then it's
Yeah,
got
when
a
I-
little, and it's got a little heart shape over in the corner that,
like
that
a heart
hooks them
shape
all
Right.
for the
together.
squiggles.
And then I
when I
have,
used to sell
and then I
fishing licenses, I would see the worst names in the world, and it's like your parents should be arrested for what they called you.
the one name that I encountered when I was in doing high school basketball. Actually, I was in high school and I was like watching a basketball game, girls basketball game, and and it's like, oh, there's a girl named Fonda. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of an interesting name. And so so I was doing the announcing for the the girls teams, and say number 22 forward, and I double checked with the one of the guys I was working with. I'm going, are all these names correct? Because I'd normally like, okay, how do you pronounce this name? And it'd be like number 22 forward, Fonda Dix. I was like, oh, your parents had the worst sense of humor. A woman basketball player in high school called Fonda Dix. Yeah. Wow.
I will give you
Your
another
parents
one.
should be flogged.
I used to work for an optician, an ophthalmologist, and when I was an optician, and I was the office manager, and we would call patients into the office, and sometimes I would get stuck calling out these patients. And one day I was picking up the folders, calling out patients, and I opened up the folder, and the name on there was an Asian name. It was PHUKHUE. It was fuck you.
Sure.
And
Hello.
I took it back. I took it back to the head nurse, and I'm all, would you read this? And she looks at me, and she didn't say a word. She just shook her head like, yeah, that's it. And so I had to go out in the lobby, and I'm all, fuck you? is fuck you here?
No,
And this
just
Asian
go
guy,
out, just go say a little prayer that there's only one Asian gentleman out there, and then go right up to him and go, sir, you're next.
you're next. I didn't
No.
think of that. I
Or
even
either-
introduced him to the doctor. Doc, this is fuck you. And the look on the doctor's face was like,
Either
Change
that,
my
or
name now.
if you want to be controversial, just walk up to the guy and go, "Hey, fuck you, you're next."
They're gonna get in
Oh,
trouble
well.
right now.
yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you all coming on, and we'll do this another time. It was a
Yep.
blast.
Thank you, my friend.
Make
All
sure you
right.
make
Take care,
it to
guys.
the
Have a great
Trump.
weekend.
All right,
Make sure you
too,
make it to
man.
the Trump train tomorrow, everybody. And I'm going to be out on 101 at McTimmons, waving at everybody as they're coming south. So,
Sweet. See you mañana.
all righty.
Bye-bye. All right. That was Marty and Doug Washington, the man, the myth, Doug Washington. And before I get out of here, I do want to talk about some of the Trump train again. Like I said, if you show up at 9 a.m. Saturday, we're going to do the lineup, and we should leave about 9:30. 30 minutes should be enough time. There are restrooms you can use. The Chevron gas station is right there on Alder. You also have the bathroom that is right at the end of the boardwalk. There's that porta potty, and there's the visitor center. Of course, you're going to have to fight the fentanyl user for the bathroom at the visitor center, but you can do it. You're tough. You're a MAGA person, so take a risk. Go and fight for your bathroom. Your right to pee. I think you have a right to pee, and they normally do it in the street, so it's not going to be a big deal if you kick out a fentanyl user. But we're going to be meeting on Front Street near South Brothers next to Highway 101. Please come out, fill up your tank, because I don't want to have to go and get a gas can and fill up people's cars. Okay, so make sure you fill up the tank, because we've had that happen before. The person gets in a Trump train and all of a sudden realizes I only have a quarter tank and we're going all the way to Winchester. Yeah, it's happened to me. So please fill up your tank. Make sure you got some snacks. It's only going to be a 2-hour and 15-minute ride at the tops to Brookings straight from Coos Bay. Now, if we leave Coos Bay at 9:30, we should be in Bandon approximately about 10 o'clock. We should be going by Marty's, which is south of Bandon, about 10:10. We should hit Port Orford about 10:30. 10:30, Port Orford is in between Gold Beach and Bandon. So we should hit Gold Beach at 11 o'clock. And from Gold Beach to Brookings, it's another 30 minutes. So we should be in Brookings about 11:30, 11:35, possibly 11:45. And we're going to meet another Trump train in the parking lot at the Hungry Clam. If you know, just Google it. If you don't know where the Hungry Clam is, it's in the lower part of the now I'm the harbor, the lower part of the harbor in Brookings. And so I recommend, if you get lost, just continue on down to Brookings and you'll meet us there at noon. The other Trump train will be there. And at 12:30, we're going to leave there. We're going to do the circle around Harris Beach. You can go into Harris Beach and they got a loop there that we can all drive around, and we will head back to town in Brookings, do the circle again, and head back out to Port Orford. They're going to come with us to Port Orford, and that's where we'll separate, and we'll go home back to Coos Bay, Bandon, and so on. But I definitely recommend that if you want to show up, please be there between 9 and 9:30, because we're leaving at 9:30 sharp. We got to get out of there, and we got to take care of business. I love it. None of your business. He puts Harris Beach. Yuck. Yeah, I know, but we're not getting out and going swimming. Believe me, we've got enough poop we have to deal with. So no, we're just going to do the circle in our the cars that are, with Trump regalia and all that beautiful stuff. We'll be honking our horns. We'll be making some noise, and we'll try to be as polite as we can on the roads and show good road etiquette. We hope everyone else understands this is our candidate. And this is a Republican area and two Republican counties. This is Coos and Curry County joining together to celebrate our next president, the 27th man Trump, who's going to be our next president. I have high hopes. I really hope. I don't know. I can't tell you. I won't make a prediction now, because making a prediction would just be absolutely, it would be insane. So to Trump train tomorrow, 9:00 on Front Street near South Brothers. And I hope to see you all there. It should be a blast. You can find out more on the Facebook page. And I think I only have it on the Facebook page. I should have put this on my website. Maybe after this show, I will put it on my website. So if anyone does want to look it up, they can look it up there at robtaylorreport.com. And once again, that's robtaylorreport.com. There you go. There's the website. So that's just something that's happening. And another event that's going to happen that I think is just as important, it's about election integrity. And that is going to be happening in Coquille next Thursday, October 10th at 9:30 a.m. We're going to have, the commissioners have invited Dr. Douglas Frank to debate Professor Justin Grimmer. Now, it's not going to be so much a debate, but it is. The commissioners don't want it to turn into a debate, but it will. And so knowing that, knowing politics, knowing how this works, yes, this is going to pretty much be a debate between Dr. Douglas Frank and Professor Justin Grimmer. We've got two experts in the field of election data and election data gathering. We got two experts here who are going to go to battle and at the county, at the commissioners, at the Owen building. This is at the Owen building in Coquille, Thursday, October 10th at 9:30 a.m. I highly recommend, if you don't live in Coos County, you need to make the trip over if you're involved with election integrity. This is going to be a showstopper. I'm willing to bet this is going to be standing room. And I don't know if they're going to have this streamed live on YouTube, because they have the ability to do that, because they do that with the Board of Commissioners meeting. I've got to find out myself. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but it should be very, very interesting. And none of your business got Justin Groomer. Yuck. Yes, Justin Groomer. I know it's pronounced Grimmer, but I'll just call him for what he is. Yes, Justin Groomer is coming in. And what is the other comment? One expert and one BS artist. Yes, that's what we have coming to us. And so it ought to be interesting, because I think Dr. Douglas Frank is going to tear this guy up. His numbers, I've gone over his numbers. I've looked at them. I know data. I'm pretty good at wielding out through the minutia and figuring out what it means and what the actual data, what it's made of, and the data that he uses is off the voter rolls. I've been working with voter rolls, I don't know, 30 years. The reason I work with voter rolls is because I do campaigns, and you can't find voters unless you know who the voters are. And how do you do that? You got to get a voter roll. Almost every other year or every third year, I will get a brand new list from the clerk's office of the latest voter rolls. And I do that so that I can keep current on who's voting and who's not voting. So when someone comes to me and says, oh, I got a grandfather, he's dead, but yet he voted last year, I can actually follow that up and see if that's true or not, because I hear those stories all the time. And you can only do that if you got a current voter roll. So that's why I myself keep up on this stuff. But this meeting here next week on the 10th, it's going to be a showstopper, like I said. I mean, how many times at a government meeting do you get to see this type of back and forth? Very rarely. I mean, it happens at the commissioner meetings, especially between the public and the commissioners, and between the public and other people in the public. It happens all the time. And I do love the commissioners meeting, but most meetings aren't like our commissioners. They're very rigid. They're very authoritarian. They keep people under check, and you're not allowed to ask questions. Well, our commissioners, they have a very liberal policy on people speaking at their public meetings. And I don't mean liberal in a bad word. When I talk about the public speaking ability and procedures that are allowed at the Coos County public meetings, they're incredible. Everyone who I've ever had as a guest from other areas, people who are district attorneys, people who are commissioners or former representatives who I've invited to Coos County to sit at our commissioners meeting, every single one of them have always said that we have the best format for public meetings, and that everyone out there could take a lesson from our board of commissioners and how they conduct themselves. And I don't care, if Drew Farmer does win the election for commissioner, I hope he has the decency, the integrity to make sure that format is not changed, because that's what makes Coos County an exceptional county when it comes to our participation, the public's participation with their government. And that's how I've always felt about our commissioners. And I tell them all the time that they do a great job, and that they never should change it. Never change what's happening. I also got to remind you, and I know Marty did earlier, is we are still fighting against that wind turbine project. I wasn't able to be on a meeting today about the wind turbine call areas that were being discussed by the Department of Conservation and Land Development, DCLD, the Department of Conservation and Land Development, DCLD. Yeah, that's it. And they had a meeting today talking about the current stages that are still moving forward with the wind turbine project. There is a timeline. That timeline started a couple of years ago. They're in the middle of that timeline. They've got about 5 years left before they go through all the steps. And they were right now at the part where they were doing the auctions. They've postponed the auction in the timeline, but they have not postponed the timeline itself. This project is still on a schedule. And the Department of Conservation and Land Development had a meeting today where they were talking about furthering this project going into the year 2025. This is a discussion that's happening. So people, when you hear someone tell you that the wind turbine project is over with, don't believe them. If they tell you that David Brock Smith, our senator, and the governor, Tina Kotek, were the ones responsible for stopping it, you can call them bold-faced liars, or they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. Because what stopped this process, and I identified these 4 reasons on my show this past Monday, was number 1, the economy. The economy stopped this show. In this process, this project for wind turbines. It was the economy, number 1, the instability. And part of that instability is caused by the second reason that they stopped this project, or they have postponed the auction, is that Donald Trump may become president. If Donald Trump becomes president, The spigot is going to be turned off, and these green weenies are not going to get any of our tax dollars. Hopefully, Donald Trump has promised he will stop these offshore wind turbine projects. He doesn't like them, and I hope he sticks to his word, because Kamala Harris, if she gets into office, she's going to give them another $100 billion, and that's just the start. Okay, so you better decide this. If you're a Democrat or you're a leftist and you are opposed to the wind turbine project, you should be voting for Donald Trump, because he'll kill it in the water. Literally, he will stop this project by cutting off the funding. Kamala Harris, if you vote for her, it's just going to continue, and it's going to destroy the environment. It's going to destroy the fishing industry, the seafood processing industry, and all the ancillary businesses that make money off of that fishing industry. It's huge. I imagine it's probably in the hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion at least, for the food industry for the coast of Oregon. And this is going to destroy the fishing industry. We need to stop that, and the only way we can do that is to continue this fight. You can go to our Facebook page on Oregonians Against Wind Turbines, and please like the page. Sign up for our newsletter. If you go to our website is at the bottom of this picture, OAWT.org. That stands for Oregonians Against Wind Turbines, OAWT.org. And we're the ones, if you see these signs going around, this is the one for the measure here in Coos counties, measure 6219. Here is the sign for the measure in Curry County, 8116. And the commissioners in both counties are opposed to this wind turbine process, and you've got to vote for this. This is going to be a huge turnout, because this is a presidential election. We're probably going to tip about 70% turnout, which is really good, because I think most of the people are opposed to this project. And what we want to get, I almost say we have to get at least 60% or more of the people to say, hell no, we don't want these wind turbines. But if they don't know, or they think that this project is done with, that the governor has stopped it or BOEM has stopped it, they may not vote in that category of the election. So if you got friends who were opposed to these wind turbines and they believe that, you got to let them know that they got to vote on measure 8116 if they're in Curry County, and 6219 if they are in Coos County. This is absolutely one of the top issues for this county. And I'm a little upset, because I've talked to some candidates who had no idea that this project was going on, or at least they pretended like they didn't have any idea that this project is going on. But it's going on, it's happening, and we've got to say yes, which means no. I love that. Yeah, none of your business. Don't you love that? Vote yes, which means no. And so that's why we put it on the signs, so that people would understand that people who are against the wind turbines are telling you to vote yes to stop the offshore wind turbines. And the question is basic. It's the same question for both counties, pretty much. They just use a little bit different wording. And it will ask the voters, do you want the county commissioners to continue to oppose the wind turbine projects that have been put forth by BOEM? And that's not the exact wording, but that's pretty much the wording. And in Curry County, instead of opposed, I think they use the word stop. And that's why we put stop in the sentence on our posters. Vote yes to stop offshore wind turbines. And some people they don't realize that the government works in weird ways, where yes means no, no means yes. And the Patriot Act wasn't patriotic, and the Inflation Reduction Act didn't reduce inflation. Yes, up is down, black is white. Everything's just bizarro world in politics today. And I didn't do it. Don't blame me. Wasn't my fault. But that's just how they work. And like I said, I finally got a great interview done this past Tuesday. It was the third try. I think if I did it again and I screwed up, Craig Rucker was going to tell me to go F myself. But he's a good guy. And he went ahead and did another interview that I've got recorded. It's all saved, and we're ready to go. So Craig Rucker will be on the show Monday. It's going to be a blast. But before you get out of here, I got to tell you about some really good people. Some good people that keep this show going. I mean, I know You, the audience, is what keeps this show going. I love doing this. And I don't think I would care if I was only talking to 5 people. It'd be like a rock band, playing for the 2 drunks that are left in the bar. I mean, every famous rock band has that story about having to go through that period in time as a rock band where they played for a pretty much a vacant bar. There was like 2 or 3 people there, and all of them were just drunk, and they were there because they had nowhere else to go. And I know a lot of rock bands who went through that. And I feel that same way sometimes. I think, I don't really give a damn if I'm only playing for one person. I'm going to do the best I can. And to do that, I have to have a way to support this program. And to support this program, I have to have sponsors. And I've got some really good sponsors, people who went through thick and thin with me, people who were attacked because they were my sponsors. Every one of the sponsors I'm getting ready to show you were attacked by the leftists of Coos County and outside the county because they were my sponsors. And they risked their business and told these people to go pound sand. They risked their business and they stayed as my sponsors. They did this through the radio. When I was canceled from the radio station, they came with me. All my sponsors said they would sponsor me, and I only still have 3 remaining from the original sponsors, not because the others don't want to responsor me. It's because I haven't gone back and asked them to sponsor me. I have a lot lower overhead for doing these podcasts. It's a much lower overhead, so I don't need nearly as much money to do these podcasts as I did to do the radio show. The radio station charged me a lot of money to put on that radio show, and so I had to have a lot of sponsors. Now, not so many, but the sponsors I do have, they've stuck with me through thick and thin. So if you like this show, the best thing you can do is, as all the other shows, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to whore myself out, like, share, and subscribe to my Rumble page, my YouTube page, or on Twitter. Like, share, and subscribe the page. Share it with as many people as you can so we can spread the word if you like what you're hearing on this show. And I promise that I'll keep working for the what is best for the individuals out there who live in Coos and Curry County in Southern Oregon and Oregon itself. I will continue to fight for those issues. And if you can help me out, if there's anything you can do for me, I highly recommend that you go to my sponsors, especially if you need, in this case, 3H Tree Service. If you need to get rid of some of those problem trees, 3H Tree Service is the company that you can call. They can remove those trees with surgical precision. They've got a Facebook page of the same name, 3H Tree Service, where you can go check out their latest videos. And their last video was so cool, how they removed, I think it was like a 110-foot tree, and they cut it down piece by piece. And then they showed how they lowered it, and it was right next to this house. And the roof, I mean, at any point in time, any of this part of this tree fell on this roof, it was going to destroy a huge section of this house. And yet they were able to remove it with surgical precision because they're professional. So if you need tree service, call 3H Tree Service. Talk to Matt Holman. The Holman folks, the Holman family, they're the ones who own 3H Tree Service. Matt owns it, and you can reach them at 541-294-1800. Once again, that is 541-294-1800, 3H Tree Service. And for your automotive needs, I recommend Tom and Giggs. Go see Tim over at Tom and Giggs. And he said he's going to be on the show Monday. I certainly hope so. So it's going to be a really cool show Monday. It's on at 3:00 for those of you who haven't seen the Rob Taylor Report. It's going to be on Monday, and he's going to come on after Craig Rucker's interview, and I'll get to talk to Tim. He was all excited because he hasn't been on in a while, and he loves coming on here, and he loves ranting. But Tim from Tom and Giggs, if you have any automotive needs, they are the best to go check out if you live in the surrounding area. And they're at 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay. That's an Empire neighborhood. They're right behind the car wash, and they can really take care of all your automotive needs. RC cars, they got those remote control cars. If you're looking for a gift, Christmas is coming up. If you got a young man or a young lady at home who loves those type of toys, especially those RC cars, they got RC boats. I think they even got an RC helicopter. I'm not sure if they still have that helicopter, but you got to go check it out at Tom and Giggs. You'll just be thrilled with all the RC parts and accessories that they have. And so I highly recommend them if you're into that hobby, or if you want to get one of your kids into that hobby. Tom and Gigs is the place to go. The largest supplier of RC parts in the area. And there, once again, you can reach them at 541-888-4660. That's 541-888-4660. Tom and Gigs. And of course, Herbal Choices is my choice. You know, I don't normally do gummies. I'm an old fashioned, I partake in the old fashioned way. I smoke my herbs, and I don't normally eat them. I'm not someone who makes cookies or brownies. You know, that was cool when I was a kid, and that's what we did. But no, now, you know, I just smoke it because I enjoy it. And so the Herbal Choices Cannabis Dispensary, they've got these gummies there that are so cool. I was quite impressed. I did one not too long ago with some friends. We were sitting around, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I got some gummies from Herbal Choices. You want to try this out?" And it was a little different. The flavor was a little different. It wasn't bad. It was a gummy with kind of a marijuana taste to it. And I'll tell you what, that was fun. I had good fun. It's been a long time since I've been in that state of mind. It was really nice. So if you got gummies, it really helps out if you got back pains, you've been traveling and you want to get to sleep. Those gummies aren't too bad. I highly recommend it. They put you in a really good mood, and you get a little bit more relaxed. You feel a little bit more at ease after doing one of those gummies. So don't do it when you're driving. Do it after you drive and you're stuck in a motel, or you get home and you've been driving all day, or you've been working all day and your feet ache, your back ache, and you're not in a good mood. I'd get one of those gummies from Herbal Choices, and I would try those out. I had a lemon one. It was a lemony gummy bear. It was really cool. I enjoyed it. And that's why I recommend Herbal Choices for all of your herbal needs. And I guess I told you enough about my vices. Let me tell you about our rights. Oregon Firearms Federation. I recommend this group over any other gun group. The only other gun group that I would join, and I am a member, and that's the Gun Owners of America. Gun Owners of America and Oregon Firearms Federation are truly no compromise gun organizations. OregonFirearms.org. You can go there, get the alerts that they send out, get the newsletter that Kevin Sterrett sends out. He's the director of Oregon Firearms. And you can learn so much about the laws that are being passed to take away your rights. And that's the only kind of laws they pass in Oregon. Have you ever noticed that? They never take away any of the limitations and restrictions that they put on your Second Amendment rights. They only take more from your rights. Have you ever noticed that? The government seems to only work in one direction, and it's so good that we have someone like Kevin Sterrett from Oregon Firearms Federation fighting for those rights. They're right now fighting against House Bill 2005 in court. They're fighting against Measure 114 in court. And if you got a little extra money, I know things are tight, I know things are tough, but if you're someone who has a little bit extra money to spend, please, if you're going to give it to a group, give it to an organization that's fighting for your rights. The Oregon Firearms Federation is the best place to put your dollars. And they're not my sponsors, but I like to talk about Bandon Gun Club, because if you live in Bandon, the surrounding area, you should become a member of Bandon Gun Club, and you can go out there and practice with your pistol. Maybe you can try the 5-stand trap shoot. That's always fun. And if you like to shoot trap, this is the place to be, the Bandon Gun Club. And you can find out more at bandongunclub.org. They don't have a rifle range, but if you do want to sight in your rifle, sighting your telescope, that is, go to Tioga Sports Park, and you can find out more at tiogasportspark.org. Once again, that's tiogasportspark.org. Really good people out there. We should probably have an event out there. I think that at one point in time, we're going to have another event at the Tioga Sports Park. I got to go out there one time with Kyle Rittenhouse, and it was a blast. I mean, we literally a blast on the shooting range. That's the place you're supposed to have a blast, right? Yeah, I think so. So I had a really good time. It was fun. I was out there with Kyle Rittenhouse and a whole bunch of friends. and we had a good time. So if you want to go shooting with your rifle, Tioga Sports Park, they have a 100-yard range, and they're trying to open that up. They're trying to open that up to 600 yards. The county's out of money, and they depend on donations. So, once again, if you're someone who's in a position where you can help out a good group, the Tioga Sports Park, they are a nonprofit, tiogasportspark.org. Go check them out, and you can give to that group. And I appreciate everyone joining me tonight. I had a really good time. I haven't talked to Doug Washington, aka Base and Tackle Rob, in quite a while, so it was a thrill. We had a really good time, and Marty's always fun. Trying to keep up with Marty. I know he didn't have the Rolling Rocks, but that's okay. I didn't want people to see that I was drinking tequila because, I like hard liquor. I rarely drink. I don't drink a lot. But when I do drink, sometimes I like to drink on the Friday night show because, it's Friday night and I'm sitting here with my friends and we want to have a good time. So, we're going to take some libations. It's not a sin. It's not wrong to enjoy the better things of life, and alcohol, it's done in moderation. Anything really, if it's done in moderation, if you're not hurting anyone else and you're all consenting adults, it's a good thing. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe not the freaky life that Marty used to live, but the rest of us, I wouldn't know so much. I will see you Monday. I don't know who's going to be on the show next Friday, and I do know this Monday I got Craig Rucker coming up from CFAT. It was a good interview I had with him. And next Monday I got the candidate who's running, who's a libertarian, taking on the Republican and the Democrat in U.S. Senate. U.S. Representative District number 5. That's our district here. It used to be Peter DeFazio's district. He had it forever, and I just people are going, why don't I support the Republican candidate? Well, I have my problems with the Republican candidate. They're not as constitutionally oriented as I'd like them to be. And so I'm going to have the Libertarian candidate on here. And if he's good, if I like what he's got to say, I'm going to support him. I'm going to support him wholeheartedly because sometimes it's not good to vote for somebody just because they have an R after their name. I got in a little bit of trouble because I endorsed Sonia here. Sonia, who's running in, he's running in District 5. The guy I'm going to have on 2 Mondays from now is running in District 4, U.S. Representative District 4. Sonia here, Sonia Feintek, she's running for District 5, and she's running against DeReamer. DeReamer is the Republican, and I forget who the Democrat is. It's not important. So it's going to be a tight race. And once again, people are kind of mad at me in the Republican Party because I'm voting for this Libertarian, or I would vote for this Libertarian if I was in the district. And they are mad because she's in there and acting as a spoiler, but I don't think she is a spoiler because she represents my beliefs over the Republicans. What can I tell you? I'm going to go with the candidate that I think represents my belief and who's going to do the right thing in office. I know it's called integrity. I've got a little streak of it, and maybe some of you do too. That's why you tune in. I don't know. But I hope you tune in Monday, and I hope you tune in the Monday following that because I got some guests lined up, and I've got opportunities to get some really cool guests coming on in the next couple of Mondays following those 2 Mondays. So keep checking in. It ought to be a fun one. And I appreciate all of you who tuned in tonight. I appreciate Ace Tackle Rob and Marty for showing up. All of you have a good day. And remember what I always say, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.